We are at Laguna Seca, Northern California, just up the road from Fort Ord, the firing range, where we are loaded and ready to go with the battle number 10 of the American Le Mans Series. Hello everybody, I'm Derek Daly alongside Jeremy Dale here, and welcome to one of the great motorsports locations in North America, and welcome to the latest sports car battleground. Now we have the major manufacturers here from BMW, Porsche, Chevrolet, Dodge, Audi, Cadillac, and they all battled season long over manufacturers and driver championships. But lately, Jeremy, things just seem to have got a little bit out of hand, almost desperate. We seem to have developed a contact sport. Can we develop or expect more of that here today?
Well, certainly it has been developing all year long, and I think we saw the pinnacle of that at Petit Le Mans 2 weeks ago. It's a 1,000-mile road race, and we had an incredible number of cars taken off the racetrack, hit, destroyed, damaged. And it's amazing. The racetracks are very similar, Road Atlanta and Laguna Seca. About 2.5 miles, a lot of elevation change, not particularly wide. And I think the answer is yes, Derek. We're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah, we have seen many, many battle scars and wounds over the last couple of races. And Jeremy, Audi, we've spoken about them so many times. They have built what appears to be a remarkable car, not just in terms of sheer speed.
Well, you know, we think classically that, of course, fast race cars can be a little bit on the fragile side, but this Audi is remarkable. It is not only brilliantly fast, but it is incredibly tough and durable. And these Audi drivers have put it through a lot. Of course, they're under a lot of pressure from the factory to win races, and they know that to do that, they have to take some chances, and the car has definitely held up.
And almost invested $100 million in this racing program this weekend. Let's very quickly go down to the pit lane to the third member of our broadcast crew, Calvin Fish. And Calvin, just take us around this remarkable racing car.
Well, it really is remarkable, Derek. When this car was designed and built, the team then took it on a series of exhaustive tests around South America and Europe, trying to simulate all of the different driving conditions that they'd faced, not only at Le Mans, but also in the American Le Mans Series. Remember back at Le Mans, they had the problems there. Christian Abt had the spin, he hit the wall pretty hard, but the car was strong enough to really get to the finish. They also had the gearbox change, where when they did have problems, they then had the ability to get the vehicle back up to speed, get it back on track very quickly. And then, of course, when we went to the Petit Le Mans, there was a lot of action there. Tom Christensen got rear-ended. He had the rear diffuser come loose. A lot of things going on there, and it really is remarkable. This car is as durable as it is. It's incredibly strong. We're going to go over to Alan McNish now. Alan, you lead the championship. Traffic seems to be the word right now. A lot of traffic out there at Petit. Certainly this afternoon we expect the same. Does it give you a lot of strength in knowing that this car is really strong and can really take a hit?
Well, it certainly helps, because when you do go down the inside and it's one of those marginal overtaking maneuvers, which we do have to take every single race, you know, that's just the nature of the beast, that a little bit of assurance in the background that if the car does come in and hits you, then there's a more likely chance you're going to come out and survive it. But you obviously don't try and get into these situations, but it is going to happen at least 1 or 2 times per season.
One of the goals this year was to win the Manufacturers' Championship for Audi, Alan, and this afternoon you have the ability to do that in clinch. But being a team player as you are certainly causes some stressful moments going back to the Petit. Tell us a little bit about those.
Well, it was. We'd worked for 10 hours at that point, and we were leading the race, and Dindo was out there comfortably leading. There's a yellow flag which punched everybody up, and it's important that Audi finish first and second. And obviously from my point of view, I was quite focused on the fact that car number 77, which had a 3-lap lead, was going to be the one that finished first. And I was pretty sure as well, to be honest, that Frankie was going to be able to hold Magnussen off and finish second. And that, it was a big, big thing. But it was very close at times, wasn't it?
Tell us about the Laguna Seca racetrack. Is this car ideal for this? I mean, qualifying looked awfully close.
Well, when we came here, I would have said yes. Honestly, would have said yes, this is the exact circuit that we would have revelled in. And I would have said going to Texas, it was the exact circuit that Panos would have revelled in and we wouldn't like. But it seems to be the opposite way around, which is a bit worrying going to Las Vegas next time. The circuit does help us and it suits us, but I think it also suits the Panos quite a lot. And we're only, 1/10 behind on Friday, and we're 1/10 ahead on Saturday, and that means it's going to be a really hard fight going into the first corner.
Well, they're on the pole, Steve Evans, but Alan suggested it's going to be very close, and once again, the strongest challenge seems to come from the Panos.
It has been a tough season for the Panos team. They have but one win, and that came here at the Nürburgring in the rain. Brave driving and tire strategy won that race for Panos. Now here Friday, John Magnuson took this #1 Panos car out and whacked the track record. They were happy about that until yesterday when the 77 Audi car went out and got it back by just 12 hundredths of a second, and that's what separates these two cars on the grid today, 12 hundredths of a second. And John Magnuson, the Audi car seems to be able to run the race at that qualifying pace. Can you?
I think so. Well, I hope they won't be able to. I don't think they'll run quite as fast as they did in qualifying, but they'll be able to run fast. I think, though, we're looking better than normal, and we have a real shot at it this time.
Let me guess, the strategy is go like hell.
Exactly. All the time, and keep the mistakes to a minimum, and just keep pushing all the time.
Have a safe day.
Thank you.
Derek?
Thank you, Steve. This will be a great fight. There's all the national flags of these different teams, a signature of the American Le Mans Series. Now, although we bask in glorious sunshine right now, this morning there was heavy, thick fog. It was very, very cold, and it may have led to a crash, Jeremy, that we saw very early with the Raffinelli car.
And this is the Raffinelli Olive Garden Lola. This is only the second lap out of the pit lane. He comes out of turn 11 and goes to full throttle right there, and you see loses control of the car. The car gets into the wall pretty hard. They did rebuild the car, although you can see a pretty big mess.
And that is the type of fog that we had here early this morning. There is the mess. They in fact have rebuilt this car. They said it may not be the prettiest car on the racetrack, but they have rebuilt that car and put it back out on the grid. Now, there are so many other stories. One is fascinating to do with the GTS category. We'll bring you up to speed with that when we come right back.
Speed Vision's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is presented by Dodge. In a perfect world, everything would be different. And brought to you by Pirelli and your local Pirelli retailer.
Welcome back. We are live at Laguna Seca. Now, one of the fascinating stories this season has been the emergence of the titanic struggle in the GTS category. There's a debut car here this weekend that we'll discuss in just a little bit. But let's just go back a bit and take a look at what's happened this season. Let's have a look here. The GTS season opened at Sebring with an impressive 1-2-3 finish for the factory Dodge Vipers. Then across the pond to Le Mans, France, and again impressive, winning the class for the third year in a row. Sears Point, here the leading Viper driven by Olivier Beretta tripped over the tire barrier, avoiding Cato and the Panos. And this opened the door for the number 92 Viper driven by David Donahue and Tommy Archer to capture their very first win. On to Mosport, renewed effort by Chevrolet Corvette brought a great finish, but Viper still held on. Move on to Texas. Corvette finally breaks the Viper streak at 12 American Le Mans Series wins in a row, and Ron Fellows is ecstatic. Petit Le Mans, where Andy Pilgrim pulled off the GTS Pass of the Year, sending the Viper into the fright of the night and sending the Chevrolet Corvette all the way to victory lane.
Well, there were a lot of Viper fans hoping the race in Texas for Corvette was just a fluke, a short race. They got lucky. Well, Petit Le Mans proved that different, and they're 1-2 qualifying here ahead of the Vipers. Olivier Beretta, they've caught up. They're here. They're tough.
Yes, I mean, this is normal. Competition are already like this, but I'm still confident about my Viper. The Viper has proved in the past that they have won Daytona, Le Mans, and several races and championships. So the car is reliable, and the team always did a good job. The engineer also tried to do the best as we can, and the driver tried to do the job that they have to do. It's true that the competition will be tough. It's a shame that this morning the warm-up was with the fog, and we cannot test what we want, but it was fog for everyone. But I'm looking to have a good one.
Well, they can't rest on their laurels here today, Calvin Fish.
No, they can't. And since Corvette actually launched this C5R, Steve, they've really gone into a new league. They really ran close to the competition at Motorsport Park. They came back, took that very emotional win at Texas and also at the Petit. And the man behind the wheel on both occasions was Andy Pilgrim. Andy, this vet, you've been in the program for a year now, but the new car is something else.
Yeah, the new car really turned it around. We have the most competitive series here. It's incredible. The GT class, the emails from all over the world, it's obviously getting attention. Looking forward to today. It should be really close.
It should be really close. And Derek Daly, we've got a new challenger out there this afternoon as well.
Yes, indeed we have. This GTS category really has come alive, particularly this weekend with that black and white car right there. See the name Seline? Well, huge interest because Steve Seline has developed this brand new road car that is now becoming a race car first. It's the Seline S7. Let's take a closer look at this car.
The GTS class gets a huge boost this weekend with the debut of the Seline S7R supercar. Its aggressive styling invites comparisons to the McLaren, but for less than half the dough. Only $375,000, but they will throw in a CD player. This is chassis 001. And Ray Mallock of England had a lot to do with the design, development, and construction of this car. Now, it's one of the few times that a race car has hit the track before the street car has hit the showroom. Last one I can remember was the Pontiac Fiero, if you can believe that. Now, Seline loves the fish gills, or Vince. This car has got 64 of them, a world record. He also likes American power. It's all aluminum small block, punched out to 427 cubic inches. It's a Ford architecture, but they call it a Seline. And Tommy Kendall, you're the first to really try this car in the wet and the dry and testing. What do you think?
Well, we're just scratching the surface. I've had to look at it for a long time before I got to drive it, and on top of that, I had to keep my mouth shut, not tell anyone, even brothers and so forth. So really excited. All the fans and so forth, everywhere I go, they say, when are you going to be back? When are you going to be back? And it's nice to have an answer for them, and I'm really excited.
That testing was in Pembrey in England, but Jeremy, pretty spectacular car.
And I think that this car is going to change the landscape of the GTS class, and we'll talk about that more during this show. There is Steve Seline. We will certainly talk a lot about this new car.
And his heart is pounding as he waits for the debut of his brainchild, the Seline S7. Will it challenge the Corvettes and the Vipers? We'll know soon. Welcome back to Laguna Seca Raceway in Northern California, round 10 of the American Le Mans Series. We are under 15 minutes now before we get the green flag and let 3 different classes of racing car go head-to-head for about 2 hours and 45 minutes. Now, Porsche has an unofficial factory team. They've had it all season long, which they run some of their junior drivers with some of the established stars, and it's operated by the man who's been so successful in years past, and he is with our Calvin Fish. Calvin?
Well, Derek, when you look back over history, Porsche have built some great race cars, the 962s, the 935s, the 917, but Dick Barber, this GT3R has been unbelievable this year. It's clinched the manufacturers, it's won every race, it's really set its own mark in history.
Right, Calvin, it's a fantastic example of what Porsche can do. It's a car the fans can identify with, the customers drive the 911. It's basically a street car that's been modified for racing, and it's been dominant, and that's because it's a Porsche. It's fabulous.
Porsche have had it somewhat their own way this year, Steve Evans, but next year it should be a different story.
It may be. It's been an awfully disappointing season for the BMW team in the GT class. They won but one race and had that taken away from them, a fuel cell violation. In fact, there were 4 Porsches starting ahead of the quickest BMW driven by this man. Janssen, what do you think? Hans Stuck said yesterday, it won't be the fastest car that wins, it'll be the smartest.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we maybe don't have the fastest car out there, but I think we have a very consistent car. And we are going to play this very safe and try to play smart, as Hans said yesterday, because I think that's exactly who's going to win the race. That's going to be the smartest for the first 2 hours.
Good luck catching those Porsches.
Thank you very much.
Nicholas Janssen of Southern California.
Now, we mentioned earlier on about the conflict and some of the war zones these cars have been in. Well, there's many battle scars over the last couple of races. Let's take a quick peek backwards at how some of those wounds were received.
I understand the prototype this year GT car on the track. We are slower because we can go through the turns as fast as they can, and so they feel like we're blocking them. At the same time, we feel like we're driving on the edge exactly like they are. It's just like the car is slower, and you know, we shouldn't have to get out of the way to let them by.
A graphic example was in Portland when the leading Audis basically drop-kicked right there one of Dick Barber's Porsches, but drivers always have their own opinions.
The problems we have is with the backmarker P cars, not the front-running guys. You know, and I actually, one time I spun a P car out because he was holding me up, and that shouldn't happen. But, you know, it's just a world of give and take, and it's like you gotta think about the risk before you look for the reward sometimes.
This was Doc Bundy, limped away with some minor injuries. The banging and bashing went on though, because at Road Atlanta, have a look at here. Oliver Gavin just swipes Paul Newman, destroys another one of Dick Barber's cars. Paul Newman gets to limp away, in fact, with a broken foot. Mimo Schiattarella passing one of the GT cars. Destroys the car against the concrete wall. Yet again, another incident.
There has been a few incidents, unfortunately, you know, and GT drivers are a little bit angry about it, but I don't think that's completely our fault, you know. So everybody should look into their mirrors a little bit more, and you know, just be a little bit more patient, you know, to overtake these whole cars, you know, on our side as well.
Well, you saw there the Olive Garden hit the wall very hard at the Petit Le Mans. We saw it again this morning in the murk of the morning, Jeremy, but that looks pretty good to me.
It actually looks like they probably put some new bodywork on it. You know, Derek, all of these drivers under incredible pressure from their team owners, from the factories, to produce results, and many of them have done it, but the pressure is just immense from the factories and from the sponsors and from the team owners, and that, I think, is at the root of what we saw at Petit Le Mans 2 weeks ago.
Just look at the glorious pictures here of Laguna Seca Raceway. Tremendous elevation change at the top of the corkscrew, one of the most famous racing corners in the world as you look at our number 42 BMW here. But the corkscrew is 7 stories high, and then it plunges downhill down to the front straight.
180 feet of total elevation change here at Laguna Seca, and it does make the racetrack and the layout here quite similar to Road Atlanta in that sense. A lot of blind corners, a lot of big commitment corners for the GT, or the prototype cars, especially the back portion of the racetrack, turn 6 up to the corkscrew.
On board with Frank Biela, he will start the number 78 car. Capello will start the number 77. Now let's go to Lori Pretty, who is the co-COO of Global Center, for those magical words.
Drivers, start your engines! Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. As you move on down through here, what I like about this grid is that this Paynos car, Jeremy, has been very, very fast here all weekend.
Well, and Jan Magnussen never once shy about getting involved and getting, being aggressive. We saw that at Petit Le Mans. He is on the outside of the front row, and he is going to be a factor, believe me.
Okay, so as Ronaldo Capello leads off this final warm-up lap, we're going to slip away for a quick break. Remember, McNish leads the championship at the moment. We're back. Jeremy Dale, Derek Daly, Calvin Fish, and Steve Evans bringing you the American Le Mans Series from Laguna Seca Raceway. And as you can see, this is the final warm-up lap being led away by the poleman, Ronaldo Capello. This is a remarkable racetrack, so famous, started first back in 1957, the first race. And I think, Jeremy, we should take a look at our Audi track map.
And of course, this racetrack has evolved over the years. The section between turn 2 and 5 added about 10 years ago. Of course, the Andretti hairpin, the best opportunity for passing, but of course, with the multiple classes here, we're going to see passing literally at every point on this racetrack. Without question, the most famous part of this racetrack, the corkscrew up at 7 and 8 there. And of course, the famous Alex Zanardi pass on Brian Herta up there has made that infamous, of course. Plunging downhill from 8A down the hill all the way through 9, very difficult corner, turn 9, turn 10, and a great passing area into 11, the hairpin that leads out onto the front straightaway.
And I'm not sure we could have had better weather for today. Now, the fog that I mentioned earlier stalled our helicopter, so he is trying to still get up there. You can see the fog at the top of the picture. So we haven't shown you our onboard cameras yet. We do plan to have 6 throughout the afternoon here, but the helicopter is trying to get himself up there because of the weather. So let's take a quick look at our Dodge starting grid. This is the corkscrew right here. Let's take a look at our grid. On the pole, this car was qualified by Capello this time, joined by McNish, the Audi. Beside him, Magnussen and Bravo. Through back, you see Vila and Leto side by side. Then Johnny O'Connell and Orwell and Gugnon in the second of the BMWs. Schiattarella's in the Lola. We saw that crash earlier. We saw it also crash on Petit Le Mans. Beside Johansson and Smith in the Rainer. Then we have Fields and Sutherland, Taylor and Angelelli in the Cadillac. As you look at the top 10, Jeremy, as you look down through the rest of it, obviously the first of the GTS cars, pretty high up here.
Well, and that is critical. The Corvettes are 12th and 13th, of course, first and second in class. Ron Fellows qualified that car. Kelly Collins qualified the number 4 car, though Andy Pilgrim and Justin Bell will start those cars respectively.
Then you see the Vipers, Beretta and Wendlinger in 14th place as you move on down through. Look at Tommy Kendall, number 15th on the grid. That's the Seline car that we mentioned earlier on. They are only a second off the pace, believe it or not, in their debut, a car that has no testing. And you look on down through here, we have a lot of the GT cars, Masson and Wallach, which is the fastest of the GT cars. Dirk Mueller and Lucas Luhr, teammates, right beside them. There's the fastest of the BMWs starting 25th, Johnson and Cunningham. As you look at Hans Stuck, you see him there, some big names. Kurt Wagner, David Murray, Johnny Mola towards the back there. And then the rest of the GT cars. Calvin?
I expect the Panos to be very strong here today, Derek. They're running the hot weather Michelin tires, and that seems to be the only compound that this Pano really likes. And we're certainly in that. It's not really so much ambient temperature, but track temperature. They need to see about 90 degrees, and then that compound really seems to fly. And we're seeing that here this afternoon. The fog was a concern. The team had some faces that didn't look too happy first thing this morning, but the sun has come out. It's ideal conditions. Magnussen will be on a charge. Steve Evans?
Well, the bad luck continues for the Rapinelli Olive Garden Lola. We talked about the fog. In the morning warm-ups, the track was a little wet. Didier de Radigues got off the track, tore up the front nose and almost all of the front suspension. So that car has been completely rebuilt. It may not be the fastest car out there, the best handling, but they're racing, and that's what's important to them.
And you know, Derek, going back to Calvin's point about the tire choice on the Panos cars, this racetrack is very unique. It's not a particularly grippy surface and tire choice, and everyone complains about the lack of grip at Laguna Seca. It tends to get worse and worse, and tire choice critical to make the car work here.
We're going to follow our Motel 6 storylines throughout the afternoon here. The first one is road rage. Will we see a continuation of the road rage that we've almost become accustomed to? Number 2 is, will the Seline S7 have a real impact on the GTS? And in fact, will it move the goalpost? It possibly could. And can Audi clinch the Drivers' Championship and the Manufacturers' Championship this afternoon? We are ready. Hang on to your hollyhocks, because these are fast, very fast motor cars. Slowest corner on the racetrack. The drivers were warned this morning not to start banging and bouncing off each other, so they're going to be a little bit careful, we think. Oh, did you see the jump that Panos got?
Magnussen with a huge jump down into turn 1, and he'll definitely lead. Look at the Audi is back to 5th.
Absolutely swallowed up was Capello, and Magnussen took an advantage. One of the BMs are off.
The Audi and the BMW coming together there down in turn 2.
It is the number 43 car, Bill Orwell, and Gugnon is behind the wheel. Orwell is his teammate, so Jean-Marc Gugnon throwing the BMW off the road. Did he keep the thing running? He did.
Boy, he got it moving forward there. I'm not sure he was going to miss that wall as he was moving forward. So look at this lead now for Jan Magnussen with the BMW second, Panos third, and then the 2 Audis. There's the first of the Audis with Capello.
So Magnussen gets a great jump. I don't know what happened to the Audi. Remember, they have a turbocharged engine, so maybe there's a tiny bit of lag. But what a superb run by Magnussen. J.J. Leto is right behind him. In the first now of the BMWs. Second Panos is Johnny O'Connell. There's Johnny O. Johnny O went from 5th place up to 3rd. Here's the start, Jeremy.
And they're pretty even here, and it looks like the Audi might have gone and then, just for a moment, checked up, or maybe even missed a gear, although it's very hard to do in these cars with the paddle shifters, and then Jan Magnussen is just gone.
And you see what happened? He actually blocked in his teammate. Frank Biela was right behind him. He literally had to back off and go just as slow as him. But look at the BMW.
Now the second BMW, he slides a little bit wide, and Capello throws it in there, and they make contact, and the BMW spins. Of course, you can see the bodywork from the nose of the BMW getting damage there, and now the car is backwards. Here's the other angle. Look at the bodywork damage there. Now, that leads us to the question, is the Audi damaged? We've already talked about how tough those cars are, but you never know.
Oh, the number 6 BMW is off the road. What a shame.
And Derek, whatever has happened, that is a major incident. I don't know if that car lost a wheel or if it's made contact with something else. That is the Cunningham car.
Yeah. Peter Cunningham and Johannes van Overbeek. Oh, the Corvette is beginning to smoke. You know, these boys tripped over each other. Look at. Absolutely. Strike 2 to road rage. We're only 2 laps in, and we've had 2 whacks already.
And there's no question this car is going to have to start. That smoke you see is the tire rubbing on the bodywork, and that creates a serious safety concern for these guys. You'll probably see it coming down the hill here because, yes, the right rear heavily loaded coming down through turn 9, and you can see the smoke.
Kelly Collins is behind the wheel in that Chevrolet Corvette. And yes, straight to the pit lane. Straight to the pit lane. Remember, most of the pits have monitors, and they're seeing the same pictures as you see right now.
And Derek, I believe Justin Bell was starting that car. Kelly qualified the car, and I believe that Justin was in the car. Calvin.
Well, Kelly Collins brings the car in. The team goes to work. A lot of damage to the right rear corner. It was getting on the tire. I think that was creating the smoke. He got punted in the right rear corner, has bent the bodywork up. They're going to probably have to check the Goodyear tire here, make sure it's not cut down. There's a hose, some other fittings under here. That could have some consequences as well as just tearing this bodywork loose. It will affect the handling a little bit. The diffuser, you can see, is ripped slightly. The team is going to work, and this looks like a lengthy stop under green, which is going to probably put them at least 1 lap down, guys.
As you watch Jan Magnussen begin to roll off the laps here, still ahead of J.J. Leto. There is Peter Cunningham. Walks away slowly. Absolutely left that BMW in kit form. The number 6, the new M3. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are live on Laguna Seca. The Audis have a real fight on their hands. Panos leads, BMW second, Panos is third. Then we have the first of the Audis, Magnici Capello. Capello is the starting driver. You see, they begin to lap the traffic already. Quick correction, it was Van Overbeek, we believe, in the BMW. And yes, it was, in fact, Justin Bell in that Corvette that's about to get swallowed up. You can see the right rear corner. Now, I don't know whether the Corvette was involved with the BMW. We don't know yet, because the right rear corner of the Corvette and also the right side of the BMW.
Yeah, that would be, and they shouldn't have, at that early point in the race, they should not have been that close on the racetrack. You can see these guys driving around the outside of one of the slower Porsches up into the corkscrew, so I doubt those cars came together there.
Yeah, and of course, remember, the big fight at GTS is Corvette versus Viper. Calvin?
Well, just an update on the vet. Kelly Collins is back on track right now, Derek. I spoke to the team. They believed it was the 92 Viper that got into the back of Kelly. They tore the bodywork away. There's a couple of hoses that they taped down. I can't imagine they're going to stay in place for the remainder of this battle out there. They changed the right rear tire and sent Kelly back on track.
Thank you, Calvin. So by my reckoning, we now have 5 laps and we've had 5 contacts. Well, and 5 different cars.
And what Calvin is saying absolutely makes a lot more sense that it might have been one of the Vipers. Of course, remember, the Corvette started first and second in the GTS class. So not surprising that one of the Vipers might have come together with that Corvette. And I'm surprised, Eric, that these Audis are not being able to swallow up this Panos just a little bit easier. And of course, in the meantime, Jan Magnussen a little bit over 5-second lead over JJ Leto.
Remember, Magnussen now is the fastest car until the qualifying session yesterday afternoon. Then the Audi driven by Capello beat him only by 1/10 of a second. So this Audi, this Panos has not been slow here. It's been right on the pace here all weekend long, and now showing the fruits. And remember what Steve Evans discussed with Jan Magnussen right at the top of the show. Can you take the fight to them? And Magnussen said, yes, I think so, and I hope so, and I hope they're not as quick as they were in qualifying. Well, so far the script is going Magnussen's way. Look at them all over the top of the curves.
Well, look at the work they have to do in traffic. You know, none of these guys will all day today drive an entire lap on the normal racing line. Look at this group of GT cars that Johnny O'Connell is driving into. Remember, these guys are having their own race. They're having their own battle that they're dealing with. And of course, here comes Johnny O'Connell out of nowhere.
And the GT leader right now is the number 52 car. He is 19th overall. He's not just in your picture at this minute, but Schiaparelli in the Lola that crashed earlier is running and running well. He's 6th. Sky Smith and Johansson is still there. They are running 7th. John Field and Sutherland is 8th. And Gilelli and Wayne Taylor is 9th. And then we have Conrad and Charlie Slater rounding out that top 10. But this is a traffic jam and a great fight here.
And there is Leto going up the hill. There are the GT leaders. So they've just gone down a lap to Jan Magnussen and JJ Leto.
The number 52 car, Tony Burgess and Christophe Bouchou. Christophe Bouchou drafted in from the European FIA GT Series with Team Avia. They have joined forces with Sequel Motorsports to put that car at the head of the field here. The number 5 car, of course, we're familiar with that being Dick Barber's car. Yikes, in the brake zone.
Well, he thought about it. He thought about it. Now, he needs to be watching his mirrors, because if he is going to make any kind of move down at turn 2, he might have Audis all over him.
Dirk Mueller in the number 50.
And here it is. Here it is. He wants to make the pass.
The three arrests almost. That is the problem right there. Now, one of the difficulties with the rear wings on these GT and GTS cars, it is very difficult to see out the back and extremely hard to see out the 3/4 side back. In other words, somebody's on a right rear corner, it's extremely difficult to see just how close they are.
And look at the time that cost Frank Biela. There is Dirk Mueller. Look at the time that cost Frank Biela in the Audi when those two Porsches were scrapping there.
And there is the Olive Garden Lola. There it is. So in fact, it looks remarkably good. I think Mimo Schiaparelli behind the wheel. It was Radiguez who crashed the car earlier. I'm not sure who said was driving it, but it was De Radiguez.
It was De Radiguez, and he took full responsibility for crashing that car. He said, I just got on the throttle too soon, and the car hooked into the wall on cold tires. Definitely his fault. But boy, the car running very, very well. As you said, Derek, right now, running 6th, only about 12 seconds off the lead Panos.
One of the glorious sounds here is that Judd V10 as it goes down this front straight here. And here's the car that just vibrates everything around you as soon as it goes by. Elan Performance, they build their own engines now in Atlanta, Georgia for this car. New car being prepared for Adelaide, but right now they're looking real good. We're back. Don't forget, every Sunday night, Speed Vision News Race Week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, for every piece of relevant information you ever want to know as you watch Steve Seline's S7. New car in the GTS category, just coming out of the last of the hairpins there.
And that car right now running 4th in the class. As a matter of fact, the Viper, the number 91 Viper, leading the class right now. The Corvette, the number 3 car, 2nd. And that car sitting 4th.
And it was a Viper that hit the Corvette. We're going to try and grab a picture of that for you earlier on. But the Audis are in a real fight here, and they don't need to blot their copybook by taking any unnecessary chances, because The championship is still theirs to win, maybe to lose. There's the Audi there, driven by Capello. McNish will take over this car. He essentially has been the faster driver all year long. You saw the blue flags there by the flag marshals trying to warn the Corvette. Wow, did he whack him? He did.
Yeah, there's contact, a little bit of contact right there.
Man. So these Audis, I mean, they seem to be bulletproof. Calvin?
They really are, Derek, and in the quest for downforce, they actually fit these front dive planes to the front nose of the car. This is a spare nose for the number 78 car, currently driven by Frank Bieler out on the racetrack. The 77 car had a bit of push there in qualifying, so what they did, they actually increased the front dive plane. This is the 77 spare nose. You can see it's completely extended here. So with a $100 million budget, Derek, even a piece of aluminum and a few pop rivets do come in handy.
Yes, indeed, Calvin.
And of course, you know, the great thing about those dive planes is that they create downforce, which it makes the car go faster, but you are much more vulnerable with those little aerodynamic pieces hanging off the car in traffic. Those things can get ripped off the car very, very easily.
There is our telemetry, provided to us by Zytec. This is the Capella McNish car. Now, obviously, this shows you the lateral G-force, but the speed is the most important thing, because when you watch the numbers here, they accelerate so quickly and then just stand the thing on their noses and drop off that speed so fast.
And actually, I was looking at the right front on that Audi, and I think there is a little bit of damage to the right front of that number 77 car. We saw the contact there with the Corvette. This is the GTS leader, the number 91. And that is not the Viper that made contact. The nose on that car looks good, so it must have been the 92 car that made contact. There it is, the number 92 car. Look at the left front on that car, and that makes sense.
And there is the telltale of the road rage again. Number 92 drop-kicked the Corvette. And we also saw a BMW go off the road and get deranged heavily. Steve, can you update us on that?
Yeah, bad news there for BMW fans. The number 6 car, driven by Johannes van Overbeck and Peter Cunningham, is out. Not fixable, broken right front suspension. Is it road rage? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, it has been road rage. So there the battle continues. The P cars are still pretty much settled down. Nobody has moved there. Then the GTS battle, still led by Beretta and Vendlinger, and that number 91 car. They are about 9 seconds clear of the Ron Fellows and Andy Pilgrim GTS car. And then the second of the Vipers is about 3 seconds behind him. Jeremy, you made a good observation, though, of the overall speed that the P cars are doing.
Well, Jan Magnussen has definitely been on a bit of a tear. Most of the P cars running in the 1 minute 17 and 18 second bracket. Jan Magnussen, the only driver to dip down into the 16. So far, the fastest race lap at a 1:16.5.
And that is, believe it or not, 1.1 seconds. One of the Paynos cars, I believe, is off. Johnny O'Connell got himself in trouble. That is him just pulling away from a standstill. So now he goes from position 3 all the way back to position 6 right now. Very costly.
And a real break for the Audis, because O'Connell definitely was holding them back just a little bit. Here's the replay. Oh, and that's what it was. It was one of the Audis. It was Capello taking a run at O'Connell, and he runs him right out to the exit of the corner, and Johnny O'Connell spins that car, trying to get back to power.
Very, very lucky that Johnny O did not actually kiss that concrete on the inside. Another angle here for you.
And this is Capello trying to take the position away down. Remember, this is one of the corners I said offered good potential overtaking opportunities.
You know what happened? I think Johnny O was blocked in by the Porsche. Oh, the number 5 car is in trouble. Big trouble. Well, he must have hit something.
Right front is completely locked up, not turning.
I don't see any damage. Don't see any contact marks.
No, that is a peculiar situation. Calvin?
Damage down here on the right front corner, guys. You can see it now. We've got a good shot of this. And actually, the suspension is completely broken. I saw some sparks as he brought it down pit lane. It looks like the day may be over for the number 5 car. And this car was unbeatable early in the year. And it always seems to be the sister car that's having success recently. You look underneath there, the Barber team, look under there. You can see the bottom control arm is completely snapped off from the hub. The wheel is just hanging, and they may attempt to get him back out there and get some points, but there's going to be a big, lengthy delay.
And Dirk Mueller was leading the Drivers' Championship. He was only 5 points ahead of Sasha Masson, his other teammate. So this now opens the door for Masson to maybe make up some time here. Our helicopter is now in the air hovering, which allows us to show you the number 42 BMW. JJ Later, Jörg Mueller will pilot this. Interesting picture here. Boy, see how fast he goes by those other cars.
Speed Vision's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by Toyota. More choices, better selection. Experience Toyota today.
Now we're on board the Ronaldo Capello car. This is the number 77 car. He will hand this over. Here's a great look at this uphill run. Look, nothing but the sky. And then, boom, a slight flat. Now what's this here? 7 stories, plunges downhill, and here you go. Downhill, it gets faster and faster as it plunges all the way down.
And this is all downhill, now down through turn 10. Big compression there just at the apex, and then a very hard braking zone here for turn 11. Very slow corner, very important in terms of exit speed to get a launch down this straightaway.
See the speed here on the left, bottom left corner. 165 miles an hour. Just on that short front straight.
And that straightaway is not very long, and you come onto it very, very slowly. Look at the traffic up ahead here. Watch him work through this traffic. Watch how quick he will catch these GT cars, and he has to make very, very quick decisions. Now they're going to hold him up through this long corner. He pinches down the exit and makes a run down the right side of the racetrack. So that exit will have cost him time. Now this is turn 5, up the hill. Now the climb begins. And turn 6, one of the trickiest and one of the most important corners. You just float the speed through the corner and then hard on the power and start climbing. And this is where you do a bulk of your climbing up towards the corkscrew. And this braking zone, very unsettling because the car, as you come over the crest, is very, very light. And you cannot brake that hard into the corkscrew.
Just a final update on that crash we saw earlier. The Van Overbeek BMW actually hit the number 23 Alex Joe Porsche 911 with Randy Post and Bruno Lambert. But the number 5 car is still a question as to what happened to that. Calvin, know any more?
Well, we do, Derek. We believe it's a suspension failure. We do not believe that Dirk was hit on the course, and the crew is going to work trying to change these lower control arms, as you can see on camera this time. And just an update on the other car, though. Dick Barber has actually protested the 23 and the 7 car for hitting Sasha Masson out on the course. He said they came down in the hairpin 2 times. That GT car has been hit, and as we know, there's been a lot of talk about the traffic situation and the slower cars being taken out.
Great pictures here.
And look at the BMW has now been caught by Capello and the Audi. The Audi has a little bit of traffic here, but Capello has caught the BMW.
So he is trying to behave himself and make his way through the traffic as carefully as possible. But right now, Capello's fastest lap of the race is a 16.8, and the fastest lap JJ Leto has put up is a 17.6. So the Audi just under a second a lap faster on their fastest laps of the race.
And you saw him coming down the hill there. He tried to get to power very aggressively coming down through the corkscrew and got very, very sideways.
So now he gets ever closer. He's got to be careful because the championship for the drivers is still in the balance with McNish leading it. We'll be right back. traffic jam here at the American Le Mans Series, Laguna Seca Raceway, Northern California. Perfect day for racing. You see he had to stick the brakes on right in the middle of the apex to avoid the number 52 car.
And that's what these guys deal with lap after lap after lap.
Number 52 car, Tony Burgess and Christophe Bouchou. On board now, the 92 Viper. This is the one that we that made contact earlier on with the Corvette.
And you just saw the battle there for second slide through. There's the number 77 Audi just in front. And just in front of that car is the BMW. And you see how the prototypes, they do pull away from the GTS cars on the straightaway, but not by much. These GTS cars very fast in a straight line. Now, that is the Seline S7 just in front of the number 92 Viper. And Tommy Kendall, I believe Terry Borcheller on board that car, and he did get around the Viper. That was about 5 laps ago. So that battle, a great battle in the GTS class.
And this very much a test session for the Seline. They ran it briefly over in England at Pembrey, but they had no real testing at all. So they were concerned that in such a public arena, should they debut the car, but they also believe, whoa, as the Audi comes slicing down the inside. See a fishtail? But to finish the Seline story, they believe they learn more on race weekend than they will. It'll accelerate their learning curve, and that's why they're here.
And the bottom line is, especially the Corvette guys, because they've made such a commitment to this form of racing, they really feel like this car has moved the goalpost, and that's why we talked about it in one of our storylines. You know, it really is more like a race car that has been developed into a street car than vice versa. Clearly, the Viper and the Corvette are street cars that have been developed into race cars.
This is on board a number 7 BMW. Hans Stuck is behind the wheel. Hans Stuck will share this with Boris Said. A lot of engine problems. They had an engine blow up on Saturday morning and it changed the engine right before qualifying. Yikes, the 77 comes slicing down the inside.
And again, that is the battle for second. You saw the BMW come through first and then the Audi. And look at how they just drive away. It will become a dot in the distance very shortly here.
Not so long ago, that BMW team finished first, second, and third here in class back in '97. How quickly things change. Now the number 42 car still hangs on to second. Capello still chases him. That gap has been pretty even now for the last 3 or 4 laps, and you can see on the right front corner of that, Jeremy, you mentioned it earlier, the downforce fin is in fact bent down, I believe, on the front of that number 77.
And that was the contact that we saw right here in the corkscrew with the Corvette when the Audi was lapping the Corvette. And of course that will compromise the car just a little bit. These cars right now, as close as they're running together, they're running about 17 seconds behind the leader, Jan Magnussen, in the Panos.
Still on board with Capello. So after an hour into the race, just a quick recap on the standing start. On the standing start, we had Capello stalled just about on the line. Magnussen got a great jump, went into the lead and pulled away about 5 or 6 seconds very quickly, and has stayed dominant in that lead with the Audi slowly creeping past. We've had Johnny O have a spin at the front hairpin. We've had at least 8, maybe even 9 cars hit each other. So the road race storyline from Motel 6 has begun to play out here. But it is a real fight, Jeremy, between the Panos cars and these Audis.
And the drivers were told at the drivers' meeting that there'll be no more of this body-on-body, the contact that we saw at the Petit Le Mans. Just incredible.
Well, no more intentional, Jeremy.
Well, and it's funny because when you talk to some of the drivers, especially the GT and GTS drivers, they'll tell you that they feel that some of these guys are intentionally trying to put them off the road.
Now the Seline GTS car, the S7, one of our storylines here, the impact this car may have on GTS. It appears to be beginning to slow down. Tommy Kendall behind the wheel. They have 3 drivers here. They have Terry Borcheller, who's also going to step into this car because you really don't need 3 cars in this category. And Ron Johnson will also drive this car today, so it'll be short stints for everybody. Yeah, this car looks off the pace, but Magnussen is well on. He's 20 seconds in the lead right now. Magnussen still out in the lead, but things are beginning to get a bit of problematic for him too. He has damaged the right front side of the car. How did he do it? Believe it or not, he hit somebody at the corkscrew. Have a look at our replay here. Jan Magnussen. Top of the hill, that's Kevin Buckler in the number 66 blue Porsche.
And you can see Magnussen wasn't really close, and the Porsche tries to leave him room. There's contact there, and the Porsche spins. You see the dive plane there on the right side of the screen disappearing. We've got another angle here, and you'll be able to see it. Watch the little piece of bodywork right there. It goes disappearing off to the right side of the racetrack. So now Jan Magnussen has knocked his right front dive planes off that panos, and that might hurt the handling balance of that car. He still does have a 20-second lead over the number 42 BMW.
But you know, Jeremy, as we look at that, Kevin Buckler, he's got to give the leader of the race more room. I mean, Magnussen was committed. Have a look again at our replay. I mean, surely he sees him coming down the inside. Look, instead of giving him room, he turns in.
I mean, there's no question what happens with these prototype cars, and especially with the GT cars, is that they make up so much ground in the braking zone. So by the time a GT driver gets to his turn-in point for the corner, it's judging that, and you can't drive completely with your eyes in your mirrors. I mean, what you're trying to do is you go into the braking zone, you're trying to say, how much is he going to close up between now and when I turn into this corner? Obviously, he thought he wasn't that close, and as you say, Magnussen is committed. He has to make the move.
And the other side of the argument is the leader of the race maybe has to give everybody else the benefit of the doubt and behave himself. So there's two sides of the argument here. Steve?
Well, the clock may have struck midnight on the fairy tale story of the Seline S7. As you can see, it's in the pits, crew working on it. Steve, Seline, what is the problem?
We have a transmission problem. The car seemed to be running fine, and then he got it in fifth gear and couldn't get it out. I guess we kind of expect these things. That's why we're here testing.
But few teams have ever debuted a new car this auspiciously. Unbelievable.
Certainly, we're very proud of it. The team has done an excellent job. We're just a little disappointed. I thought we had done quite a bit of transmission work. I don't think it's anything major. It's probably in the linkage, but we'll sort it out, try to get back in the race.
See you back home in Irvine, California.
Thank you.
And guys, there is nothing super trick about the transmission in that car. It is quite a conventional gearbox transaxle for a racing car. Unlike the Audis, it doesn't have paddle shifters or anything like that. So just one of those standard little problems that you do have with a new race car.
Yeah, it is a space frame chassis with honeycomb panels around it to give it the stiffness, built by Ray Mallock in England and then assembled by Steve Seline in Irvine, California. Back on board, having a look here at Magnussen, who's now dodged a few bullets. He's got to be careful. If he's going to hand this thing over to David Brabham in good shape. Remember, he also was behind the wheel when he sideswiped the Audi down the front straight of the Petit Le Mans just 2 weeks ago. So you do have to be a little bit careful. And you know what? If the argument ever comes up between who's at fault, they usually do say, if you're leading the race and you're making the pass, you better be more careful.
Well, it is the responsibility of the quicker car to overtake safely, no question about it, but these guys just seem to throw all that stuff right out the window.
And JJ Leto continues to hold off Ronaldo Capello in the Audi. That is a great fight with Magnussen just a little bit ahead.
Even though they were having transmission problems with the 55 Seline car, Tommy Kendall came out of this machine with a smile on his face because you know what you've accomplished in a few days.
Well, a weary smile. That was really hard work, but you can't expect that. We'd hoped it would go trouble-free and we could really have a fairy tale ending, but conventional wisdom tells you otherwise. The car was really running pretty well. I got a poor start and fell back a little bit, but once I kind of settled in, the car was really good and it didn't fall off at all. The Pirellis were exceptional, and then at the same time the car got stuck in 5th gear, and then also the throttle spring broke.
Well, that's all, huh? Hope you get some more track time.
Yeah, we're going to try to get back out there, get the other guys some seat time in race competition, but we'll go back and regroup and try to come back stronger and better.
Play with those Corvettes and Vipers.
Believe it or not, as big a name as Tommy Kendall became, particularly with 3 Trans Am championships in a row, he has been away from racing for 3 years, almost actually flirted with the idea of not coming back until Steve Seline brought him back in this car. Now, Jeremy, have a look at what happens here.
Well, this is Leto and Capello coming down to put a lap on one of the slower Porsches. Watch Leto here. He's trying to get back to his turn-in point, and he hits the Porsche, and then that puts the Porsche into the Audi. The Porsche spins. That is J.J. Leto's fault. Shane Lewis in the number 21 Porsche, totally a victim in that situation.
Wow. Remember what happened at the end of the Petit Le Mans. We saw Shane Lewis absolutely livid because there were no oil flags when the BMW broke a drive shaft and just completely coated the road, and he destroyed that Aspen Knowles car. And now he gets drop kicked. He gets mugged, in fact, by the Audi and the BMW. Whoa, look at that.
And you saw Capello. He had to stuff it in there in front of that Viper. He saw Leto going through. There's the 21 car. So the 21 car is back running.
Yeah, innocent bystander coming down the hill, and then he got mugged by the BMW and the Audi.
And you know, if you're a GT driver, that is the kind of thing that these guys are talking about. There's absolutely no reason for that incident to happen, period.
If you're a GT driver, I'd be scared. These are wild boys all around us here. I mean, this is a storyline that emerged at the Petit Le Mans in particular. But these boys, they race so closely these days that, I mean, you have to be inch perfect if you're not going to hit anybody. I mean, I think contact is almost inevitable when you run 3 classes with 3 different variations of speed that's so great. You know what? It makes it incredibly entertaining. We have another incident just 1 lap ago. Have a look at turn 6.
Well, we were on board with the Audi when this happened. We just didn't see the aftermath. This is where he stuffs it inside the Viper because he knows that Leto's going through and he doesn't want to lose contact. So there's a little bit of contact there, right rear of the Audi. The Viper ends up going off the road. Lucky not to spin because it is very easy to spin at the exit of turn 6 there.
And there is the Seline back out again. I think it's Terry Borchler probably in the car. It's either Terry or Ron Johnson. In fact, Ron Johnson is now behind the wheel of this car. So his first piece of competition in this car. Ron, of course, does race a Seline Mustang, I believe. Steve Seline now building between 4 and 5 Mustangs every single day. There's the overall look down through, look for your favorite driver. Mimo Schiattarella still running very, very well as we go on board the number 5 Dick Barber Porsche.
And they have fixed this car, so it is back out on the racetrack. Remember, this is the car that had the suspension failure on the right front, so it is now back out on the racetrack.
This is the Porsche Junior team. Lucas Luhr, Dirk Mueller, usually ruled together. Dirk Mueller may be the faster of the two.
This is turn 6, long climb uphill, especially important in these cars with less horsepower because this hill is very steep and it's a very long climb.
I love this on-board stuff here because when you look uphill, you just see the sky. Another picture here on board again with Capello. Now he closes in a little bit closer. He is obviously faster than the BMW. You can see the trouble they can both get into when they begin to lap some of this traffic. This is exactly what we were talking earlier.
And they're about to catch that number 5 car. That is the number 5 car just turning in for turn 11 as these two bear down on the number 5 Porsche. And these cars now running a little bit quicker than our leader, Jan Magnussen, although the gap's still in the 22nd range for Jan Magnussen.
Move over. This is the number 5, Dick Barber. Moves over. There's another Audi right behind him. Stay on board here. There's another Audi about to whiz by him. Frank perfect here. It's almost 3 hours, absolutely flat out, no holds barred, with 3 different classes of racing car. We are back and we have an elite change because the BMW driven by J.J. Leto has just swept past Jan Magnussen. But Magnussen made it somewhat easy because, believe it or not, he was given a stop-and-go penalty for the incident that we showed you earlier on when he hit Kevin Buckler, the number 66, the blue Porsche, at the top of the corkscrew. Wow, that is very costly for Jan Magnussen. Now, have another look at the replay. This is what has caused the stop-and-go penalty.
Well, here is, this is the replay of the stop-and-go. He comes in and literally it is just a stop-and-go. Stop the car and off you go. But that chewed up what was a 22-second lead. Now, this is the reason we ended up with this stop-and-go. This is the pass. We've already seen it up at the corkscrew, the contact with the Porsche of Kevin Buckler, the number 66, which did a little bit of damage to the car of Jan Magnussen.
Okay, so now what happens to J.J. Leto and to Capello, who both mugged the number 23 Porsche on the way down the hill? Because that was almost even more blatant. Now there is Kevin Buckler.
Oh, who was that?
Yikes.
Who was that? That looked like a BMW to me. It was the 43 car.
That is the car that we saw off the road earlier on that first lap. It's also the Le Mans winning car.
Has that Porsche put some oil down there? Look at there you go. There's the leader. The leader's off, Derek.
Can you believe that?
There must be some oil on the racetrack. Both of the BMWs off there at turn 3, so Magnussen back in the lead, but now with the Audi hot on his heels. There's the number 43. It gets back on the racetrack. Of course, the racetrack, a real mess there now because both of those cars have dragged all sorts of dirt and rocks and debris.
Jean-Marc Gounon, behind the wheel of the Audi, throws the thing off the road for some reason. What? There's the oil there. There's the reason. There is the reason.
Yeah, that car has lost a motor, and there is a bunch of oil on the racetrack, and the 2 BMWs, there's the first one, the 43. And lucky for that gravel trap, because that gravel trap did keep him out of the barrier.
And that, remember the flip over, the Petit Le Mans, this is the car that replaced it. They could not rebuild the car, so this number 43 car is the actual Le Mans winning car from 2 years ago.
And there's another angle of the 43 car, and the entry of that corner very, very tricky because you're never really straight. You get out there and you brake and you turn, you downshift for turn 3. And here's the first angle we saw. We didn't know this was coming, but there he goes, disappearing across the frame.
Yes. Wow. Boy, the speed he left the racetrack. He's lucky he didn't smack that guardrail. But it's not. He's back on it. He didn't go to the pits. The last shot we had from this, there were stones and gravel and dust and dirt all over the place. Yet he did not go to the pit lane.
So Magnussen back in the lead after the 42 car went off in the same location. So J.J. Leto pays the price. And right now, look at this, Derek. The 78 car is in front of the 77 car. So somewhere, the 78 Audi got around the 77 Audi.
There's the Cadillac driven by Wayne Taylor. Off the pace. Big changes for that Cadillac program for next year.
Derek, I think there's something wrong with that 77 car. It seems to be going very slowly. Here is our leader, Jan Magnussen. He comes down pit lane.
Calvin?
Well, Jan Magnussen brings the car in. As you can see, Derek, the front dive planes are completely missing on the right side of the car. The crew goes to work. Jan is going to stay in. David is just watching the monitors. He's not kitted up to take over the driving chores right now. Jan is getting a drink as we speak. There's a lot of heat emanating from the front end, probably from the brakes, from the wheels and hubs and everything. They do not look like they're going to be changing tires. I see new tires set up here. It's going to be fuel only for the leader of this race, Jan Magnussen.
Well, things are changing rapidly here. Now it says the number 78 car is back in leading with Pirro.
So finally the Audis are leading. Of course, they will have to make pit stops shortly, and this has really been the first race. Remember, they've won the last 5 races on the trot, and this is the first time they've been in the lead here at Laguna Seca.
Capello, number 6, 77 car is shown in second place officially on the scoring. Biela in the number 78 car is on his way in.
And you saw Emmanuel Pirro standing there. There is Frank Biela. He brings the car down pit lane. That was that was Emmanuel Pirro standing there ready to get in this car.
Slow pit lane entry. Calvin?
Frank Biela pulls it in. We're going to see a driver change, as you mentioned, Jeremy. It's going to be Pirro jumping in here. And at the same time, Capello has brought the sister car in, the number 77 machine right behind him. So both Audis are in. We're going to see the two different crews go to work. Some competition here, of course. But this is a real battle. The car looks clean. I don't see any damage to this number 78 machine. Let's go back to the 77, though. You can see there's a lot of damage there to the right front dive plane. That's those little additions they put on to really try and increase the downforce of the car. And Alan McNish is behind the wheel. Everything looks routine. We're going to see a tire change here for the Audi, so that's going to cost them a lot of time. And their driver change is complete. They're just going to change tires now and try and get these two Audis back out. Meanwhile, the BMW is in the pit.
It is indeed, Calvin, the 42 car. J.J. Leto is out of it. Jordan Mueller is in the seat. They fueled the car, obviously, and changed all four cylinders. That's a surprise. They normally here at this racetrack can double stint these tires. They couldn't here today.
Well, Derek, as I said, a very low grip racetrack, and sometimes you're forced to, at Laguna Seca, run very soft compound tires. It'd be very difficult to double stint on a softer compound.
But we are an hour and a half into this thing. We have seen so much action, and still the first three cars are covered by a blanket. They make their pit stops, and they still come out one behind the other. Pirro now leads. The second BMW with Mueller, our second place BMW with Mueller, is now right ahead of Jörg Mueller. No, he's ahead of McNish in the second of the Audis. And the 43 car, Jean-Marc Gounon, who's staying in the car.
And this car was shown in 6th place when it came to pit lane. Johnny O'Connell now sitting in 5th in the second of the Panos cars.
Steve?
You're absolutely right. There is no driver change here. Jean-Marc Gounon stays in the... It'll be interesting to see if they change tires. It appears that they're going to do that. I think Jeremy's right with the soft compound on this very rough and pretty racetrack. The Michelin's as good as they are. Maybe it can't be double stinted. Cars up. Yep, tires are coming off. Absolutely. Guys?
Thank you, Steve. As we watch the final tire change, this car has been in the wars right from the first corner today. But he flew off the road, Jeremy, at a very high speed. Let's just take a look from the onboard camera as to what it looked like. The number 43 BMW.
And this is real time. Listen here.
That's how you go from about 140 miles an hour to the gravel trap and then back on again. But they're still in the fight, however, they're a long way down.
Speed Vision's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. And the new Motel 6, now renovated nationwide and still the best price of any national chain.
That one there. Welcome back. We are now on board one of the Audis. This is the number 77 car, Alan McNish on board. The 91 Viper, who we show right now to be running in second place. Wendlinger and Beretta behind the wheel of both of this car in second place at the moment. The number 92 car, remember, is one we saw have the incident earlier on, but Wendlinger just jumped into this thing during that driver change. And look at this here, Calvin.
Olivier, it's kind of strange. You were due for a pit stop as you entered pit lane. The right front wheel left you. What caused that?
Yeah, I was in a corner fast, and suddenly the wheels became like this. And I called the pit, and the pits were ready, so everything went well.
Okay, I think the Viper's okay down here, Steve Evans.
Well, down in the Corvette pit, the 3-car came in. Andy Pilgrim out of the car. Strapped in now is Ron Fellow. They took on 4 new Goodyear tires. Same thing is happening here with the 4-car as Justin Bell gets relief from Kelly Collins.
Wow, Jeremy, I'm just surprised as you look. Oh, the Corvette's in and trying to do some repairs. Well, we saw why earlier on because he was hit by the Viper. But Beretta looked tired.
Oh, Beretta, who is a very fit guy and is, of course, very, very familiar with these Vipers. In other words, he should be as comfortable as anyone in that car. It looked very, very worn out. Now, keep in mind, this is a fairly physical racetrack. It's not very hot today, but those cars generate an incredible amount of temperature in the cockpit, regardless of the outside air temperature. So. And this is a fairly physical place. There are not a lot of long straightaways here to rest and relax. There is a little bit of telemetry from the Magnussen car. Now, these guys did not change tires, so right now they're sitting on about a 22-second lead, but that is only because they did not take tires like the BMWs and like the Audis. So it'll be very interesting to see if this car can continue its pace without having changed tires on that stop.
Okay, let's show you exactly what Beretta was talking about. He said he was in a fast corner and he felt a severe vibration. We have it right here for you. Have a look at this here. This is the number 91 Viper.
Well, this is coming into pit lane. This is a little chicane before the hard left turn, and the right front seems to depart the car right here.
Wow. That was more than tire trouble. The number 42 is off. Is it 43? 43 car. Oh, I like it. Yeah, you got to have the confidence to drop the clutch and go all the way around. Don't just get halfway.
Well, I'll tell you, the 43 car, what a day.
What is Gagnon doing here? He's been off the road now at least 3 times that we've actually seen on camera here. I think Bill Arborman needs to relieve him.
Well, they've had an eventful day, as you said, Derek. The early spin, lap 1, down in turn 2, the contact with the Audi. Here's a replay of what happened. This is coming down out of, oh, well, look at that. It was the Audi was trying to get a position, and these two are leaning on each other. He's trying to play hardball with the Audi, and they both go around.
Can you believe what these boys are doing here? I mean, the GT cars complain about the P cars being rough against them. These P cars are in a boxing match with each other.
He was absolutely playing hardball with that Audi, no question about it.
Well, Alan McNish survived that because on board here. But now, what sort of damage does he have on this thing? The strange thing is, Jeremy, as you watch that, and we're going to take a real close look here at what damage do we see. I can hardly, right rear corner, something hanging off there. I can't believe how hard they can hit these tanks and the things survive.
You know, there are not a lot of racing cars that you can justifiably call tanks. But these Audis, if there has ever been a race car that you can call a tank, certainly these Audis seem to be, they seem to fit the bill. Look at the rubber along the right side of that car. That is the contact with the BMW.
I mean, I'll tell you what, this is, when you get in a fight like that, there is no white flag of surrender. It is side by side, both looking for the position, and they just bang off each other, and you hope you come out okay.
And Alan McNish now back to 5th position with that incident. So this number 77 car, well down, and Alan McNish has got a lot of work to do here.
Yeah, this is the toughest day these new Audis have had for a long, long time. Let's go on board with the number 43 BMW, going on behind the wheel.
That's the run out of turn 6, and you can see McNish there looking for a way by. They're in the braking zone here. McNish isn't really even that close, but now look at where he puts the car.
Let's take a look from Alan McNish's perspective.
So the BMW gets stacked up a little bit behind the Seline, but it's almost like Yunnan missed a gear there or something because he just wasn't getting with the program. And I think, oh, look at that, there was contact. Pretty good little contact on the left front.
Wow. Well, the road rage plays itself out here, and it appears to me to be getting worse, not settling down. We've had one stop and go already for Magnussen.
Just 2 weeks ago today, a little over 1 hour into the 10-hour Petit Le Mans event at Road Atlanta, Bill Arberlin in the 43 BMW was locked in a solid draft. When he pulled out to pass, this, oh my God, backward somersault occurred. The car landed hard and then into the wall. Now, Bill was okay, and believe it or not, that car could have been fixed. But, Bill, we have here a very special number 43. You flew in from England.
Yeah, this is a car that actually has a lot of history. This one won Le Mans.
Oh, boy.
So this one has a lot of luck going with it. I drove it all last year anyways, and I drove it up to Mosport this year, so I'm familiar with it. It kind of doesn't matter what you sit in. BMW prepares them all exactly the same, and each one is very competitive.
What did you learn from that backflip?
You know, there are a few signs that it's coming on, but not enough. Anyways, what you learn is on the hump, on any hill, on any rise where you're approaching 160, 70 miles an hour, don't draft too close to somebody, because all of a sudden they take the air off the nose and you go for a ride. And as I went up and over, I mean, it's like a roller coaster ride. The G-force is so high, it puts your head down into your lap, so you actually don't see what's going on.
Good luck to you and 43.
Thank you very much.
Well, Bill says there's a lot of luck with the number 43. Not today. They have been in the wars. Let's go back again and have another look at a slow-mo replay of that incident at the corkscrew with Jean-Marc Gounon and the Audi.
And Derek, to my mind, this was just a lot of hardball here by Gounon in the BMW. And of course, as we said, he's been in trouble all day, and it really did start on lap 1, down at turn 2. That last incident was really only the culmination of his day's activities.
Here's the start line incident.
And this is lap 1 down at turn 2. He gets together with the number 77 Audi. And so that's how he started his day. Lucky not to make contact with other race cars down there.
No contact there. Then remember, he got stuck in the oil. I got caught in the oil, flew off the road at a high rate of speed into the gravel trap, got himself back on again. Then he got himself involved in a fierce tussle with Alain McNish at the top of the corkscrew. And boy, that was fisticuffs. The number 51 car is in the pits of Calvin.
Well, they seem to be having a big gearbox problem. Bob Willock has jumped in behind the wheel. Sasha Masson has jumped out, but the crew are now, they did the routine stuff, fuel and tires, and now they're trying to look at the shift linkage, it looks like, down inside this Porsche. It's really going to cost them in the championship here today. These guys have been running so strong lately, and this is going to cost them many laps under green. They're a little confused as to what the problem is exactly, whether it's internal or actually the shift linkage.
Calvin, remember, Dirk Mueller in the sister car got in trouble earlier on, and Sasha Masson could have pulled ahead in the Drivers' Championship because he was second, and now he hits trouble. So,
now this is on board with Alain McNish, who has caught the number 42 car, so this is the battle for 4th place.
And this Audi, it is incredible how many times this can get whacked, and to the untrained eye, it still looks remarkably intact.
Well, remember when we saw the onboard of him and that incident with the 43 car at the corkscrew, the car actually did hit the barrier, and we didn't see that on the first angle, so this car has been definitely banged around a little bit today. And now he has caught Jörg Mueller in the 42 car, and as I said, this is the battle for 4th position.
Jeremy, you mentioned right at the top of the show about this being a remarkable car, not just in terms of sheer speed.
And that is what they have built. They have built a car that not only goes fast, but is very durable. And in endurance racing, it's reliable as well.
Okay, here we go. Same setup, different BMW. It's exactly what he tried to pull off with Gounon about 2 laps earlier. Right here. You know what? Gounon was, for some reason, slow at the crest of that. Let's go back and have a real close look in slow-mo, Jeremy, because I think the BMW changes line right here.
Well, he definitely didn't get the launch coming down the hill, and look at what he tries to do. He tries to force the Audi out, and really, I mean, he's playing a pretty dangerous game there, and Alan McNish didn't have anywhere to go, and pretty much had to stay on the throttle, and that could have been the end of the day for both of those cars.
And here comes one of the Panos cars down the hill. There's the second of the BMWs. Wow, this is action-packed. I'll tell you what, he looked as if he turned into Alan McNish to put him out on that dirty line, hoping to force him to back off. Remarkably, Alan McNish survived, and he's still in 5th place. Welcome back, and here is the sorry sight. Jan Magnussen brought the leading Panos car into the pit lane, put in David Brabham, but they have had to take off that front nose cone for some reason. Steve?
What more can happen to this poor number 1 car? It gets bumped off the pole by a tick of the clock, then a stop-and-go penalty, and now there are motor problems. They shut it off as they have to when they come into the pits. They worked on it a bit, they lit it off, and it sounded worse than my lawnmower, to tell you the truth. It sounds pretty darn bad. But apparently there's some serious engine problems. I don't think it's electronic. As soon as we know, you'll know.
Now to have a clear lead, 20 seconds of a lead over the second Panos car, driven by Johnny O'Connell and Cato. JJ Leto and Mueller, with Mueller behind the wheel now, is in 3rd. McNish is still trying to run these boys down, but he is about 24 seconds behind Pirro, his teammate, in the lead.
And already the Panos car of Magnussen and Brabham has dropped down to 8th position. This is turn 2. One of the LMP cars spun down there.
That's the Conrad Motorsports car. Franz Conrad and Charlie Slater shared that car.
And there is Emmanuel Pirro in the 78 car, so he gets through that safely, gets around the Cadillac through turn 3. That's where the oil was down not that long ago.
So the leading Panos car, Magnussen and Brabham, begin to fall down the leaderboard here. He is now 8th place, and Jaleli and Taylor is 9th, and the Field Sutherland car rounds out the top 10. We'll be back. The American Le Mans Series' first visit to Laguna Seca last year was action-packed. This is the leading BMW being driven by Steve Soper off the road, not in a blaze of glory, but that allowed Eric Bernard in the Panos to take the lead, only to come almost straight to the pit lane with a broken right front suspension. This enabled Steve Soper to somehow redeem himself and take the checkered flag for a great win for BMW, leaving the Panos team just to ponder what might have been. Well, we talk about 2 years ago being action-packed, nothing like today, because one of our storylines, remember, was road rage. It is unbelievable what we have witnessed here, because so many cars have hit so many people, and the Panos led the charge for so long, but he got himself in trouble. Steve?
Well, here's a follow-up on that, Derek. The reason the car sounded so funny, it is an exhaust system failure. It's apparently right where the header flange bolts to the cylinder head. And as you guys all know, if that breaks off, then that cylinder or cylinder isn't passing the gas out through the exhaust system, it's just squirting it out between the head and the flange. So it may still run pretty good.
Okay, I want to now introduce a special guest who has joined us here in the booth. He actually raced here yesterday. Was it yesterday? His name is Derek Bell. Today he raced here this morning in the fog. Derek, welcome to what we're talking about here.
Thank you very much, Derek. Yeah, it's great to be here with you.
You know, you've watched some of the action that we've seen here, Derek. There's so many elevation changes here. Does that leave drivers unsighted and maybe cause some of this?
Without a doubt. I mean, the fact is there's no real straight here, and the straight has a brow on it and a kink to the left. So there is nowhere really, and there's a little bit here, but you can't overtake anybody much there. The guy, look at that. You see, the guy's so involved with taking his line for the corner. How can he possibly look in his mirrors and let a quicker car by? And so the fast cars just have to take any opportunity they get. But I think they are being a little bit rash today.
Yeah, maybe a big bit. Derek, you raced the Audi S4, I believe. So you're very knowledgeable of this whole Audi freight train that's been developing this year. what type of investment are they making in motorsports in America right now?
I wish I knew. I don't think they know, actually.
Open checkbook.
I think the fact is that the major part about it is, of course, was their Le Mans program, and you can bet they spent thousands and millions on that. But having done that, they then decided to come over here, and I think it was very wise. And I know Len Hunt, the head of Audi USA, obviously had to put up the budget to bring those cars here, and our little program with the S4 champion Audi is just a very small part of that budget. So you look at that, sorry, just saying, look at that move there. I mean, the BMW of Seline Stuck, I mean, he just eased over just to let the guy by, and this is a very professional pairing you're riding with right now.
And I think these guys really spend as much time looking in the rearview mirrors as they do out in the front. I mean, you can't, you know, the prototypes close up so quickly in the braking zones, especially with these GT cars, that you can put the brakes on and no one's in your mirrors, and all of a sudden you get to the turning point and there's a car there.
Well, that's absolutely it with the speeds that these guys are going. The only thing I think the advantage here is the track is very slippery, and I don't think the closing speeds are quite as great as they were, say, at Atlanta the other week.
Derek, you raced here just a couple of hours ago. Talk us through some of the corners here and some of the difficulties.
Well, the biggest problem with the circuit is this dust, and you can see it is everywhere on the track, on the edge of the track, and it swirls around. And if you go down there, you'll notice that there's just a layer of dust all over the track, and everybody, since the beginning of practice and qualifying, has been complaining about understeer, push, sliding the car, not getting any traction, particularly the Audis. And I think it's just the sheer grunt of those Paynoses is doing such a wonderful job, and the sheer horsepower and cubic inches is allowing it to be so fast.
Derek, how dramatic is this drop here in the corkscrew?
Well, it's not quite as dramatic as you think. It's lovely to go through there. It's a lovely feeling just to land and then the car doesn't get out of shape. But it's not so dramatic, really. It's not the greatest corner in the world, but it is probably the most dramatic looking one. And look at this lot working their way through here. And the BMW and the Audi are in close call there, very close. But they're very alert, and the other drivers basically in these slower cars have got pretty used to it by now. They've been out there for an hour and amongst the track.
That's almost an exact replay of what we saw earlier on when the Alex Job car with Lambert and Randy Post got mugged by an Audi and the BMW coming down that exact same hill right there. McNish now continues to close in on the number 42 BMW. This is a fight for second place. Pirro in the Audi still leads. But just take a look here, Jeremy, because this shows how close this can be every single lap.
Well, this is a perfect example. Look at him. Jörg Müller cannot commit to going to the outside there, and so he has no choice but to go to the inside. That's what gives the Audi the run. You see, Müller has to go right because the lane hasn't opened up, but all of a sudden for McNish, the lane opens up, and he gets a shot at the BMW.
But the BMW isn't letting go through. He just whacks straight back across. The thing is, Alan is terribly experienced, and although we saw a maneuver earlier up in the corkscrew, which wasn't the best, it was amazing just then, just how you've got to really react to what the guy in front of you is doing. It's a lovely shot through the corkscrew.
Did he pass? Yeah, he got him. He got him.
Where is he?
He's behind him. There he is.
Yeah. You know what? He finally did manage to squeeze by. Every time he's trying to do this. So now, after about 2 hours of racing, after the boxing match that these leaders have been involved in, the Audis finally get to run 1-2.
And traffic plays into this. You can see they come up the pass. It's actually one of the slower LMP cars, and McNish just stuffs it in at the last moment. And I don't think Müller was expecting that at all.
Wow, that was a risk now to go right down to the apex like that. You better hope. He waves.
Oh, that's cheeky.
He waves.
That's very cheeky.
Wow. I'm not sure JJ Leiter will appreciate that. Or Jörg Müller. So now Audi's run 1-2 after 2 hours of racing. The battle continues. Welcome back, and there's our GT leader right behind the Viper, the number 23 car, Alex Job's car. Bruno Lambert from Brussels in Belgium is behind the wheel. All was not well, though, Jeremy, about a lap ago.
Well, this was coming down the corkscrew, and there was no one around the car, and so we have to assume that either something went wrong with the car, although he's still out on the racetrack and running good lap times, or he just spun it, which is entirely possible.
And he did not lose the lead because he looks about, he's almost a lap ahead of the next GT car, which is the number 30 car. Next GT car was the White Lightning Racing Peterson Motorsports car. Mike Peterson and Court Wagner in that car. So they had a healthy lead. He got away with that one.
You saw there on the telemetry, turn 11, apex speed about 42 miles an hour. And this is the front straightaway, which, as you said, Derek, is not straight at all, about 142 down into turn 2.
145 down to 40. So even the 911s, Derek, lose as much as 100 miles an hour just in the braking zone.
Exactly, and that is what coming into it. So you've got a double apex corner almost there, and you want to go out wide and come in, you can't get the second part. And of course, there gets a lot of dirt out there, and it's a very tricky corner. Very tricky corner.
And it's funny, you look at these GT cars and you think that they are slow when you compare them to the LMP cars, but in fact, those GT Porsches are very, very fast. Two of the Vipers here, the number 91 car, the GTS leader, climbs the hill up out of turn 6. And that car right now has about a 37-second lead on the number 3 Corvette that has Ron Fellows on board right now.
GTS leader Karl Wendlinger is behind the wheel in this thing. Boy, they have had such a great, strong team of drivers in these Vipers. It has been a pleasure to watch the Chevrolet Corvette come into competition here, slowly get faster, really take the fight to them. The Petit Le Mans was such a great event, and Corvette got their second win. But this car here still, it is tough to beat these boys if they don't strike trouble.
Well, remember, the development on this car is now 7 or 8 years old, so it has been, there's one of the BMWs climbs the hill up to the corkscrew. The development has been extensive on the Viper and ongoing, and it is one of the reasons why the car is so fast and so reliable.
Tommy Archer is driving this car here, the number 92, as we watch on board here. Archer and David Donahue, remember they were winners at Sears Point. Tommy Archer was in the car when the Corvette made the great pass at Petit Le Mans just 2 weeks ago. It's the V10 engine, remember. Now they're going to come away from the American Le Mans Series for next year and then come back the year after with the development of the Viper. Meanwhile, glad to see this Seline still running. Derek, we talked earlier on about the potential for this Seline car here to rewrite the rule book for GTS. I mean, move the goalposts, because this looks like a racing car compared to a Corvette or a Viper.
I couldn't believe it when I first saw it on Friday. I looked at it, what is that? It looked a bit like a McLaren, a bit like a Jag 220. And then somebody said, look, it's the Seline. And I cannot believe how incredibly competitive it is on its first outing. And it is moving the goalposts, which in a way is rather appealing.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, only a second off the pace in qualifying. Now in 29th position. Ron Johnson behind the wheel, but this is a test session. Calvin?
Well, just a comment on the Seline, Derek. The car does not have power steering. They did this something, thought they could get away with not having that on the car. When I spoke to Tommy Kendall this morning, he doubted he'd get through his stint, actually. That's why they're running 3 drivers here. So it's really tough around the bumps and very fast sweeping turns of Laguna to not have power steering. And the 23 car is in the pits as we speak. This is the leader in GT. Randy Post behind the wheel. He's going to turn it over to Bruno Lambert. We saw Randy have a spin just a few moments ago. He missed his shift, apparently, according to the team. That created some problems and ultimately looped the car around. But these guys can really make a leap in the championship with both Barber cars having trouble here. This team has won 2 times this year already. They're going for 3.
So we thought the driver change was made earlier on, so it was Randy Pope who stayed in that car. Now Bruno Lambert, our European friend, gets in to try and hang on to this lead. Now remember, the GT battle has become a little bit easier for the Alex Job car because the Dick Barber cars have been in all sorts of trouble all weekend long here, particularly Jeremy with that suspension breakage earlier.
And that was obviously very surprising for that team. Those cars, semi-factory cars, very well-run effort by Dick Barber. All the best stuff on those GT cars, and they have been very reliable all year long.
And the second place in the GT category right now is BMW. Look at the freeway California traffic jam. Man, there's probably 3 different classes of motor car right there, all doing hugely different speeds and trying to behave themselves, or they might get a stop and go.
And that was our leader there, Emmanuel Pirro, who drove through that whole group of cars.
So the GT battle heats up. It's now Porsche and BMW. The GTS battle is Viper leads, Chevrolet Corvette is second, but the 2 Audis are out in front.
Speed Vision's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by Porsche, who wish to remind you there is no substitute. And Yokohama Tire Corporation. Turn on technology with Yokohama Tires.
Welcome back. We're having a good close look here. The number 78 car looks relatively unscathed, despite being somewhat in the wars. The number 78 car now with Pirro leading. Frank Biela started this car. They had a very poor start. Magnussen ran away from everybody early in the race. Then he had all sorts of trouble. Finally hit somebody at the top of the corkscrew. Got a stop-and-go penalty. McNish got in a couple of boxing matches, but these boys now are first and second in the lead. Now, the number 77 car is shown about 20 seconds, Jeremy, you think, behind?
13 right now. And this has been a bit of an ebb and flow with the traffic between 17 and 15 and 13, but I do think that McNish is definitely going quicker, about 2 seconds quicker on that last lap.
Okay, Alan McNish, many people believe is maybe the best sports car driver in the world. Certainly he has been called up by many magazines, and he comes from a very small little country called Scotland, and there's produced some great champions. If Scotland had produced only one great driver, then Jim Clark would have been enough. In 1965, Clark won the Heart of America, winning the Indianapolis 500. He then conquered the Formula One World Driving Championship that same season, becoming the most famous racing driver in the world. But another Scottish world champion would follow. The great Jackie Stewart became one of the most influential drivers of the 20th century. He won the World Championship 3 times and gave inspiration to many of his fellow countrymen from a rugged nation that would attempt to follow in his very famous footsteps.
Scotland as a nation is quite a proud little nation. There's 5 million people in it. It's not exactly that big, but for some reason, I don't really know why, we have produced some good drivers, and at the moment we've got Dario Franchitti in the States, who's going very well in IndyCar. We've got David Coulthard in Formula One. We've got Colin McRae in World Rally Championship, and hopefully myself seeing similar level in sports car. I think the only thing we can say is that when we do go somewhere, it's a long way, and so we're very determined to come back with a trophy, because if we don't, it's a bloody long way home without anything to sort of be supporting.
And Alan McNish has taken so many trophies home. He was actually doing the Formula 3000 Championship in Europe, and at Donington Park one time had a huge crash. A spectator got killed, and that really derailed Alan McNish for quite a few years, because he had aspirations of Formula One, and he may still get there. He is currently contracted to Toyota to head up their test and development program next year, with view hopefully to racing in that F1 program in the year 2002. Meanwhile, back on track, our number 7 BMW is now leading the GT category. So Boris Said and Hans Stuck have hauled that BMW up to lead the GT category. The pit stop that we saw with Randy Post and Bruno Lambert has handed the lead to Stuck and to Boris Said. Boris Said is behind the wheel as we speak, so they have made their driver change.
And Derek, I don't think it got handed to them. I think the 7 car actually had to earn it. And we've got an encore here. This is turn 2. Pass for the class lead, I'll tell you, but I think again it was a case of Lambert probably was not even aware that he was there or was going to try and make that pass as the prototype car was going up the inside and taking the line away, and Boris Said, well, if you make the hole, I can fill it, and that's exactly what he did.
Quick bit of news from around the motorsports world, and certainly in America. Fernandez, as you may know, as you watch the Panos being pushed away, Fernandez won the kart event in Australia. The Texas winner in the IRL was Scott Goodyear. Buddy Lazier emerged as the champion, and in Winston Cup Talladega, Dale Earnhardt was the winner. But unfortunately, for those of you who watched the 2 nights ago, Tony Roper, who was very badly injured, did in fact pass away. And of course, our thoughts and prayers go to Tony Roper's family. Let's get out of the pit, Steve.
Well, about everything happened that could happen in a single day of racing for the #1 Panos. David, what finally put you out?
Well, we have a problem with the engine. With the air in the car, it lost power, and then I jumped in and we tried to get it to the end, but we just lost more and more power. I don't know what the problem is, but...
As well as this car ran in qualifying, as well as it ran in the first hour of this race, gives you a lot of confidence going into the next race, I think.
I mean, yeah, I really feel we could have won this race for sure, because, you know, the team worked really hard this weekend, and Jan did a great job at the start, and, you know, we had a good lead. We double stinted the tyres, Michelin tyres, working fantastically, so we were just getting more and more of an advantage. And unfortunately, you know, that's racing, these things happen.
See you in Las Vegas.
Derek Bell, as we watch this, you can sense the frustration with David Brabham there. I mean, there's so much at stake here to have something like that happen.
Well, it is, because they look so dominant over the whole thing, and you know, they were stormed off at the start with Jan Magnussen. That error, of course, happened to go in the pits for the penalty, and it sort of went downhill from there, didn't it?
Yes, it did. So we have about 35 minutes of racing, I believe, left. The Audis continue to be 1-2. The BMW is third. The Panos still runs fourth. The Lola with Schiattarella, and De Rodriguez is in the top 5, and Gugnon is in 6th place.
There's the leaders right there.
3 laps to go.
Oh, look at that.
Look at the Viper, blocks him. Oh, the brake zone. The brake zone for turn 1. Ah, Pilgrim goes down the inside. The Viper's off.
He's going to have a good save so far.
He tried to stop the move by the Corvette, and he wasn't strong enough. And now the boys can celebrate. That was only 2 weeks ago. What a great victory that was for that Chevrolet Corvette in the darkness of the night at the Petit Le Mans. Remember, we saw some great Trans Am races this year. Don't forget, tomorrow night, the Laguna Seca race. You'll see the BF Goodrich Stars Trans Am Series, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday, October 16th. Good luck here at the number 3. Corvette is shown in 10th place overall at the moment, still just a little bit behind in the GTS battle, behind Wendlinger and Beretta. Wendlinger behind the wheel of the Viper as we speak. But the number 3 car, we saw one of them get drop kicked earlier at the very first corner.
And right now, I think, Derek, he's about 35 seconds, I believe was the last gap that I saw. Yeah, 35 seconds behind the Viper. And there you see the speeds. These cars are very, very fast, and when you see them alongside the prototypes, they're not out-accelerated by the prototypes to any great margin.
Ron Fellows behind the wheel of this Corvette. Calvin?
Well, there's a real battle with the manufacturers, Derek, but also with the tire companies as well. Michelin on the Vipers, Goodyear on the Vettes. This is kind of the older design of Vette. It's on one of their wet tires now. They don't have a slick here this weekend, but you see the tire actually fits inside the rim. This is the new design. What the tire actually does, it actually sits on top, so it actually has like a shoulder to sit on there. It supports the sidewall a little bit better. There's less flex, less heat build-up, and this is technology that comes over from Formula One. The Ferrari guys are running this. The added benefit, of course, a little bit more aerodynamic. They're always looking for that last little bit.
When Corvette went to the wide track suspension, what that allowed was Goodyear to develop a completely different style of tire that they wanted to introduce. That tire has now given the Corvette a lot more development parameters, and this car consequently has gone faster.
And, you know, in year 1 of the program, the Corvette guys were quite vocal in their criticism of Goodyear that they weren't getting help, that they weren't getting the development they feel they needed to move the program forward, because you need those partnerships to move these programs forward, and now they're getting that, and the results are speaking for themselves.
Derek Bell, having raced here just a couple of hours ago, is this racetrack on the surface considered to be abrasive and hard on tires?
Not particularly hard at all, no. The problem is getting temperature into them. It takes 3 laps to get the tires up to temperature this morning, and I know the GT cars and the prototypes had that problem at the beginning of their warm-up. Of course, the the ambient is so much warmer now that the tires are coming in much quicker. The one thing I'd just like to make a comment about is that seeing McNish is not actually catching his teammates in front, and I think that's a very valid point. I think he's had the instructions from the pits, look, we have enough excitement for one day. We need to just finish in first and second place and not be heroes, because we know Alan can push the edges of the envelope somewhat.
There's the damage still in the front of that number 92 car, Tommy Archer behind the wheel. That damage, if you were not with us earlier on, they ran into the back of one of the Corvettes early. I believe it was on the first lap. And that pass that we saw there of the number 4 Corvette, which is being driven by Kelly Collins, I think, at the moment, was not for position because the Viper was already a lap ahead. We are back, the American Le Mans Series. We are live. We are on board with Lucas Luhr and the number 5, Dick Barber, GTR3 911. This has been in the wars most of the day. But these 911 cars, as usual, are the backbone of this GT category. In fact, the backbone of sports car racing for so many years. And how serious are Porsche to follow the American Le Mans Series? Well, Herbert Ampferer, the director of Porsche Motorsport, is here himself to watch what goes on. And earlier I got to talk to him just about how surprised he is that the American Le Mans Series has grown so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. There are not so many championships in this world who are, first of all, growing in the way ALMS is doing, and secondly, the consistency and stability of rules you don't find so much in this world. I'm really pleased.
The fact that you're here at Laguna Seca, does that suggest that Porsche as a manufacturer is keeping a good close eye on exactly what goes on here?
Yeah, for sure. We have quite a lot of customers in that championship, and I have some friends on that place, and I do have some drivers who are under my contract racing in that championship, so there are arguments and reasons enough to be here and enjoying the sun of California.
How important is sports car racing in America to Porsche?
Yeah, Porsche is, we call ourselves the sports car manufacturer, and the US is our largest market. So the answer is already given. It's very important. We want to show that our road cars are can be easily converted into race cars, and we have to show that we can show that only on a racetrack, and that is very important for us to give our customers the feeling with their product they have bought. They also have bought an important part of a race car.
16 Porsche class victories in the American Le Mans Series from 99 to 2000. Steve?
Well, the lone Panos car, lone remaining car, was just in. A visibly tired Johnny O'Connell came out. Japanese driver Hiroki Kato went in. They took on 4 new Michelin tires and are going to rejoin the fray with a fresh shoe.
Kato now behind the wheel. Johnny O'Connell, who's done, he did almost 2.5 hours in this thing right from the start, and this is not the easiest car to drive, particularly if you have to manhandle it. And he's had it up there running in the top 3. It's now shown in 5th place after this pit stop. Believe it or not, Sciattarella, whose car was crashed earlier this morning, is now shown in 4th place. So it's Audi, BMW, Lola, Panos, the second of the BMWs. Stefan Johansson, the Guy Smith's car, is in 7th. The Field Sutherland car is in 8th. And then the first GTS car, which is a Viper, is shown in 9th, with Fellows and Pilgrim in the second GTS car, shown in the top 10. The number 92 Viper is now 12th overall and 3rd in class. Our onboard camera here, onboard with Tommy Archer, who's behind the wheel, who moves over.
Alan McNish sneaking through there. By the way, Derek, the lead, Alan McNish, only 7.5 seconds now. So in about 15 laps, he's cut that from 15. Hey, try to keep that car on the road. He's cut that down from about 15 seconds. So Alan McNish is, in fact, sneaking up on his teammate for the race lead.
And how easily that happens, that you just slide wide. You throw dirt back on the racetrack. The next guy through is to contend with that also. 2 boys in the pits,
including the leader.
Yes, it is. So this is the 6th place car with Goonan, I believe, is still. Calvin?
Well, the leader is in, Emanuele Pirro. It looks like they're going to do tyres, which is somewhat of a surprise. They changed tyres on the first stop on both Audis, and they're doing the same thing here. So I spoke to Reinhold Joost. He said we're going to have to push, but that was before that number 1 Panos came out of the show. Emanuele Pirro looks very calm there. He's just adjusting his switches on the dash, resetting the fuel gauge. Fuel is going in, and then they're checking tyres. They may not be changing. Actually, the tyres come back over the wall. They've inspected the tyres, which they're allowed to do during the stop. They wait for the last stop to fuel. Meanwhile, further down pit lane, we have Steve and the BMW stop.
That's right. This is the 43 car, 2 laps down in 6th position. The Frenchman Gounod is out of the car. Redondo Beach, California's Bill Oberlin is in. They're also taking tires. I don't know. They are not going to change tires. Going to set him out on the same Michelin tire.
McNish, the number 77 Audi, takes over the race lead. Of course, he will have to stop again, and he'll pretty much be forced to run the same set of tires as his teammate has done if he's going to have any hope of staying in touch. And of course, he peels off. So Alan McNish now brings it in, and Calvin, you are there.
Alan McNish hits his marks perfectly. Look at the damage to the front end, Jeremy. You can see there the dive plane that was damaged early in the going when Capello was behind the wheel. But we also see a bit of damage to the rear of the car. Going back down, big tire marks there. That's the incident with the 43 BMW. Coming around to the back end, the diffuser and everything looks good. So he's probably getting the downforce. There's a little bit of damage there to the right panel on the bodywork. Again, they're inspecting the tires. I don't see any panic like they're going to do a tire change. They're actually dragging the fronts out of the way, so it'll be fuel only for Alan McNish, and he'll try and chase down the 78 car.
The amazing thing for me as you look at these pictures is you can see how much bumping and bashing that's done, but that car essentially is still all in one raceable piece. Steve?
The 42 car is in, currently running second thanks to the Audi pit stop. J.J. Leto goes in place of Jörg Müller. Again, the Michelin engineers checking the tire temperatures. They can't touch this car until the fueling is complete. You can only change the driver while fueling is going on. They hope to not change tires, much like their teammate, Bill Oberlin.
Here is the fight for the lead, because Alan McNish, believe it or not, during the pit stops managed to hang on to that lead. So now we are 2.5 hours into it, and he manages to get himself into the lead.
And the advantage here for McNish is that he did not change tires. Of course, neither car did, but when you come out of the pit lane, you're not on cold tires. At least those tires have a little bit of heat. You can see immediately he's up to speed in that car.
Wow, here comes Sherman in the tank. He's been hit by the BMW. He's hit the concrete wall. He's been off the road. 2.5 hours later, he's still managed to be in the lead. Whoa, better not hit those boys. And remember, we think he might be in the team orders because he backed off a little bit earlier, Jeremy.
Look at in his right-hand mirror. You can see the lights of the other Audi. Every so often, they flash by in that mirror. You see them right there. That car is not very, there it is. It is not very far away.
Now, what's going to happen here? Now, can Pirro maybe pass McNish, or is McNish who's leading the driving championship? Will he be allowed to set the tone here?
Well,
I can't imagine these boys began to fight among themselves.
I think we need to send Calvin into the fight there and go find out for us.
I have to say, I don't think there's any way that Alan McNish, as being the lead, if you like, the fastest driver of the troops, is going to just let the other man go by unless he has a problem with the car. At the same time, remember that they are quite handsomely in the lead, and therefore it would be silly to go and do anything stupid to lose one of those 2 positions.
Yeah, you'd be very surprised if Reinhold Joost said go ahead and race when you've got both cars, one first and second. And the championship, the fight that McNish is in for the championship is the BMW that sits third right now.
And the problem is, go ahead and fight if you have a straight fight. When you have to contend with 2 other classes and so much traffic around, you have to be so careful yourself. And if he doesn't have to worry about being defensive to hold his teammate off, it makes it just a little bit easier. But McNish finally crawled or gets himself to the head of the pack. one Viper. He was second in the GTS category. Beretta just got back in. Carl Wendlinger got out. Beretta, remember earlier on, looked so tired when he jumped out of this thing, so he actually gets to do the double stint. I'm surprised, Jeremy, as cool as it is, that's so tired. But hang on, let's go to Calvin Fish first. Calvin?
Well, just a quick update, Derek. As you saw, Beretta did jump in the car and Wendlinger jumped out. So a fresh driver there. Ron Fellows, I believe, is just going to do a double stint in the vet. Both cars took on tires. They should be in similar shape. And looks like the Viper has a bit of a handy lead right now. But anything can happen here in traffic, guys.
Yes, indeed. We're going to try and keep a real close eye. It looks like the two Vipers. They've got, it looks like, I'm trying to see the change of the score here. About a 44-second lead over the Chevrolet Corvette with Fellows in it doing a double stint.
Well, we'll see how that shakes out once this Viper gets back over the start-finish line. There's the bruised and battered 4 car, which right now sits well down, 4th in class, 15th overall. Hey, there's some contact up there. One of the that's Cato in the Panos. Now, is that contact, or is he having mechanical problems with that car?
No,
that's contact.
He couldn't find reverse for a while. That was the trouble. They're not very easy with sequential boxes.
Yeah, he was sideways on the top of the hill at that apex and drove off there, so...
And spreading lots of debris as he comes down the hill.
That'll please Johnny O'Connell after a double stint, won't it?
We do have a replay. Look at the dirt still coming out of the front of the nose cone. Jeremy, here's a replay.
Well, all by himself. Didn't have any help there.
Yeah.
And not quite enough commitment to get it turned around and pointed down the hill when he did get it going, obviously, because he ended up across the racetrack.
Too much rear brake biased. So, Cato begins to undo some of the hard work put in by Johnny O'Connell earlier, and he still hangs on to 4th place. Back live on board with the number 7 BMW. And don't forget, the FIM World Superbike continues from Brands Hatch in England, legs 1 and 2. And it's tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Speed Vision. Lots and lots of motorcycle fans now flock to watch these races on Speed Vision. Leader in the GT category. Boris Said and Hank Stuck. We believe this is Said. Yes, it is behind the wheel. We saw him make the pass for that lead in the class over Randy Post earlier. Bruno Lambert is now behind the wheel of the 2nd place car in GT. The Cunningham BMW is now 3rd in that class. And we don't see the Dick Barber boys on the scoring monitor as we watch it. We only have the first 20 places on our scoring monitor here.
And Boris Said has legged out a nice little gap of about 28 seconds on the 2nd place car in GT. Oh, was that Alan McNish? That looked like car contact. I could swear I saw Alan McNish. Well, he must not have made car contact because I saw him up against that other Porsche. And
yeah, the bodywork that we see flapping at the back, that was done earlier on. We saw that earlier on. But you know what? He might have hit somebody else. I'm going to take a look back through our videotape to see is that worthwhile showing you again. But
it would not be out of character for the day.
It was close, but I don't think, Jeremy, he actually made contact. Have a look.
Well, the camera pans here with the 2nd place car, and McNish, as he comes down through turn 9, it was close.
Wow. And you know what? The GT car stays over on the right side. He saw exactly what was going on with that freight train coming down the hill behind him. Give you an idea how these boys have run their best laps. Believe it or not, has been put in by the number 77 bruised and battered car. He did a 16.2 as the fastest lap of the race. The Piro Frank Vila car did a 16.8. So it looks about 0.6 of a second of a difference there overall for the day.
Well, certainly Piro has not lost touch with McNish. He continues to put some pressure on, as we've already discussed. Doubtful that they will be allowed to race each other Having said that, if an opportunity presents itself in traffic, you want to be close, you want to be in touch, and you want to be able to take advantage.
That is down at the Andretti hairpin. Double apex corner. You turn in, and then suddenly there's a tiny short straight, then you turn back again. Long sliding corner, as this one is here, but then the speed really builds up through turn 5. This one right here. Hero beginning to close in, but you know what? I doubt if he'll stick his nose under Alan McNish. Alan McNish is in control unless he drops the ball or gets taken out with traffic. We'll be back. Welcome back. This is the number 4 Chevrolet Corvette. Kelly Collins is behind the wheel. They are currently in 4th place, quite a bit behind. Look to be about 2 or 3 laps behind. That was the one that was drop kicked very early by the Viper, and you can see the damage in the right rear corner. But this Chevrolet Corvette, this program is very serious, as is the Cadillac program. And in fact, GM, I think, are beginning to realize just how serious this American Le Mans Series is. Joe Negri is here, and I got to talk to him earlier on just about how impressed he is with the American Le Mans Series right now.
This is an era of sports car racing like I don't think I've seen in the United States, the kind of commitment that the manufacturers are making. And Don seems to be doing all the right things. The TV numbers are good. He's getting more spectators every place. He's working hard to make this a happening in every place that he goes. And we need that to draw the support, to get the sponsorships to keep this thing going. But from a manufacturer standpoint, when you have 4 or 5 of the top manufacturers in the world making the kind of commitments that we're making to this series, I think you can see that it's going to grow. And the big thing, and Don recognized this, is Le Mans. The world is global now. We're global. We have to be there if we're going to sell cars around the world. And General Motors' strategy with the Corvette and the Cadillac is trying to grow those brands globally. And what better way than competing against our marketplace competitors in an era like this?
How important is sports car racing, the American Le Mans Series, to General Motors?
I think it's very important. Corvette itself, I mean, America's sports car, we have to be here. And we have to be here, and we have to beat the Viper, which now we're doing, I'm happy to say. And we put a lot of effort in. And as you mentioned before, this is deadly serious racing. We can't be out here just to be involved. We got to be out here to win.
And it is racing at close quarters, sometimes way too close. And this car we've seen as the season has rolled on has been in the wars many, many times. And Calvin can add to this with Shane Lewis.
Well, I'm down here with Shane Lewis. Shane, you seem to be very upset with some of the driving out there today with the prototype cars.
Well, it's absolutely out of hand. The sports car, everybody knows we've had problems with contact with the prototypes and the GT cars. Sports car officials come down, they talk and they talk and they talk about how they're going to do something, how they're going to do something. I think they're going to wait till somebody gets killed out there. I don't know who's running the show. We're just out there. It's just like, you know, anything goes anymore. Something's got to be done. They told us, they promised us they would sit down and do something. This took place. It happened again. What's it going to take? What's it going to take?
As you can tell, tempers are flared here, and GTS problems down there further down pit lane, Steve.
Well, you see the tail lights of the 92 car, the GTS leader. He gives up that lead to his teammate, the 91 car. If one doesn't get you, the other one will.
Wow, Shane Lewis, Jeremy, very vocal. You see him right here, he's furious. He in fact got caught out with the oil slick at the Petit Le Mans. But we have seen that car knocked off the road quite a few times this year.
And you know, the bottom line is that if you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. You can't stand there in a driver's meeting and say, we're going to fix this problem and then not do it. You have to be, you have to get involved and you have to do it. Now, Magnussen did get black flagged. We saw a penalty there, but I don't know why J.J. Leto also was not black flagged.
Exactly, because we saw what he did earlier on. This is the number 56 car, the Martin Snow Racing. This is one of the new P675, the light P cars. We have 2 of them in the race this weekend. This is one of them, and Phillips Motorsports being the other one. We have to follow on with what you said. It was very clear what happened later on when the BMW whacked the 911 of Alex Jones, and we were surprised that didn't get a stop-and-go penalty when Magnussen did. That's the difficulty.
And here is a replay of that accident. It looked like a little bit late to the brakes there, tucked in on the LMP car. And you know, when you tuck in under those cars, you lose the downforce, and of course that will compromise the braking. And it looks like that there was no contact there, so not one of those incidents that we've been talking about.
Yeah, Martin Stowe and Gunnar Jeanette shared that car, but we don't know who was behind the wheel at that particular time.
I think the other thing you have to get into your head as well as driving these P cars is the fact that you're entering the corner so much faster than we used to back in GTP. You know, the braking is far more severe and turning in speeds far greater. We used to be able to drive against these slower cars, the other classes, and not have so many problems. And I think that's the major problem is this entering speed, as we see here, just down the inside, and people just can't judge it.
I know it is a major problem. Dick Barber's cars, believe it or not, were hit 11 times in 4 races alone.
You see, I was talking to Alan just this morning, and he said the whole of the Petit Le Mans, he didn't get touched by anybody, and he didn't touch anybody. Now that is remarkable. Yet today, it's been like sort of being part of the rolling in the desert, hasn't it?
Yeah. And don't forget, a bulk of the multi-class racing over the years has happened on the bigger racetracks like Daytona and at Le Mans and at Sebring, Watkins Glen, Road America, tracks that are well over 3, 4, 5, 6 miles where you spread these cars out. But now we're at a 2.3 mile racetrack, or 2 weeks ago we were at Road Atlanta, 2.5 miles, and you get on these slightly smaller racetracks and everything just gets compressed together.
And I think one has to go back just a little bit. I can't harp on about IMSA, but we used to split it up, so we had 2 races, make the races shorter, but we had 2 races with the classes split up, and that made it a lot safer.
And I think certainly from a television standpoint, it's very, you know, it looks great on television. It's very exciting, but you know, when you've got competitors and you have that kind of reaction, you know, you need to give the competitors the confidence.
And there's a very warm Tommy Archer, Steve.
Tommy, we're seeing a lot of very fit drivers, including yourself. Some of these cars pretty fatigued. You're really having to horse them around out there today, apparently.
Every lap is a qualifying lap. I mean, we're going as fast as we can go. You got to try to pace yourself so that everything stays with you. You know, running the car that hard, everything's getting pretty hot out there. So we're just trying to pace ourselves, but yet go fast enough. You know, I caught up to the Corvette, but as the car got light, the handling changed, and I had to back up a little bit. But the car's running great. You know, it's just amazing how fast you have to drive every lap. I mean, the only time you get to rest is at the corkscrew.
Is that a great line? Every lap is a qualifying lap.
Yes, indeed. De Radiguez is in a bit of trouble here, and this is the car we saw crashed earlier on today in the fog of the morning on cold tires by De Radiguez himself. He hurt his back earlier, you might remember, in Canada, but he is beginning to smoke now. And you know what? When you begin to smoke like that, you don't usually go too much further. We'll be back.
Flag to see what people are doing. You're too busy. Look at Shane Lewis. Look, there's an argument going on here. Shane Lewis is absolutely livid. You know what he's saying? Where were the flags? Where were the flags? That's exactly what he's saying.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Wow, he is.
Let's hear, boys. This was today. That was the number 21 car, the Aspen Knowles car. And what surprises me is why did the BMW not get a black flag when we saw Magnussen get a black flag for a much lighter incident earlier on?
To me, the problem with these guys that come from Formula 1 and single-seater racing, and they think that once they're by the car, they can pop back in front of it, and they're not giving anybody enough room.
Kato in all sorts of trouble. Shrapnel and debris everywhere.
And the problem is the guys coming up the hill cannot see that car. We can see it from our angle, but look at him.
How could he avoid the action right there?
Well, they can't see him. That car sits down in a little dip there, and he needs to get out of that car.
This has to be a full course yellow. There is so much debris that is on the way up the hill to the corkscrew. That is an unusual place to lose the thing. Is he in the braking zone?
He's just coming up to the braking zone. But it's a very scary place to put a car out across the racetrack like that because it's completely blind as you come up the hill.
Now, we saw him off the road earlier, and full course yellow had to be. We saw him lose control earlier when the rear brakes lock on the top of the corkscrew. Let's have a look, Jeremy, to see can we tell something.
Well, that looks like it started coming out of turn 6, that he got off the road coming out of 6 and just tried to milk it all the way up the hill.
Look at the wheels. Smashed off the car. We have another angle to show you. Look, the whole, wow, that right side wheels completely destroyed, taken off the car. So Jeremy, he obviously smacked the wall on the right side coming out of turn 6.
Yeah, I'd love to see that camera from turn 6, because that might tell us the whole story, but certainly for these guys coming up the hill, a very scary situation.
Well, Cato definitely left that Panos and Kid for him. He's not going to run that anymore today.
I shouldn't be saying, but how experienced is this guy, Cato? Can I ask you? You're not answering me, Derek.
He has run the whole season. he has run the whole season.
So where did he come from before?
Japan.
Come on. I want an answer out of you.
Good answer, Derek.
Yeah, look at this thing here. No option here but to go full course yellow. Wow, the damage he's done. That corner, Jeremy, how fast is that corner, turn 6?
Well, turn 6, in one of these cars, probably your minimum speed, your apex speed there is probably about 100, 105 miles an hour in a prototype, but maybe a little bit quicker than that. But then you get on the throttle and you just roll that speed right up the hill. But the common thing there is to drop a wheel on the outside and try and milk it as you go up the hill and not lose a lot of your momentum. And it's not an uncommon crash, but boy, I've never seen a car finish so far up the hill from a turn 6 crash.
So under full course yellow, the Lola, the Olive Garden Lola that we saw earlier on that was smoking so badly, we didn't think it was going to go much further. Sure enough, there is De Rodriguez on the right-hand side. Steve, you there?
I am here. Didier, not much joy here in the Olive Garden pits. They were hoping for some better luck than they've had recently. What's happening? Obviously, motor problem.
Yeah, motor problem is too bad, because after my big crash this morning, the team did such a good work on the car. Incredible what they did, and it's a wonderful team. And so I'm very sad for the team what's happening here with the motor, because we deserve better, much better.
You do indeed. Maybe your luck will come in Las Vegas.
So that team, boy, they were under the gun right from this morning. But here, there's a lot more damage done here than there was done to that Lola this morning. De Rodriguez did say he was on cold tires when he speared the wall coming off pit lane. Just take a look at the type of debris that you have to make your way through. This is on board with the number 7 BMW.
Well, look at how he comes over that crest, and that car is just revealed there down in that dip. And I think we were very lucky not to have a much more serious incident here with him parked there, because there's just nowhere, you just can't see it.
And just for the benefit of our comrade here, Derek Bell, Hiroki
asking the hard questions,
was runner-up in the 1998 All Japan Formula 3 Championship and a sports car veteran of Formula 3. Are you happy?
Yes, I'm totally adjusted.
So, Audi, BMW, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then Stefan Johansson and Guy Smith round out that top 5. Welcome back. This is the scene of the last battle, and the war is over for the Panos team pretty much for today. They haven't had a great weekend here, although they came here with the type of speed that they believed, and many people believed you could win, but didn't start off too well, Jeremy.
Well, this is Johnny O'Connell early, and I must admit he does kind of get forced off the road there, but I think he should have given it up just a little bit earlier, and that was a fairly harmless spin. This was only a few laps ago. This was Cato up at the corkscrew, and then this is the big one coming up the hill out of turn 6, and this is what put us under our first, surprisingly, our first full course caution of the day.
Yes, indeed, but that was a big one. There is Cato himself. Panos crew, of course, have done so much work on this front-engined car, and all they can do is sit back and watch. Johnny O'Connell did a great job to get that car. I believe he ran that thing in second place at one stage. And now the boys just wait to see what sort of debris they get back to put into the truck to take back to Atlanta. Have a look on board our number 92 Viper here.
Now this is down in turn 2.
1 and 2. Just going to stay on board here because the surprise, Jeremy, when you come out of turn 6, I mean, you're here all by yourself, but the surprise a driver gets when there's such a high impact, the debris it leaves, it's quite scary sometimes because you can do so much damage to yourself. David Donahue is actually behind the wheel at this particular time.
This is turn 5. Now you start the climb up the hill. This is 6. Now this is where Cato would have crashed at the exit here. Now you can see the dust, you can see the waving yellow flag as these guys come up the hill, all the debris, and then all of a sudden, look at the car right there.
Just as well they went side by side as they came out of that bottom corner. One of the fast cars overtaking the slow one.
Exactly, with a wheel sitting there right in the middle of the road.
As my boss John Wire used to say, he said, "Don't call us, we'll call you."
Exactly, yeah. There's the number 73 car. This is the Multimatic Motorsports car. David Lacey, I believe, was behind the wheel of this thing, and I think the rear wheel fell off.
Well, it was during the yellow, Derek, and I believe they had been in for a pit stop, and that would really be the only explanation for it, that they would have come out from their pit stop. Now, the car would have made pretty much a full lap because that is right in front of the pit lane. It didn't happen coming out of pit lane. Look at how these guys literally stopped on the hill. Race cars do not like this.
They get so hot they need air for. Look at the destruction there. Wow.
That is kit form.
Not good. That is well and truly kit form. Meanwhile, remember the GT battle is still being led by BMW. Let's go hear from them. Calvin?
Well, as Tom said, it's good to see me again. It's been a while, Tom. California was sweet last time. You won at Sears Point. You lost it in technical inspection, but you're running 1-2 right now. But a problem with the 7 car, I believe.
Well, I believe we refueled and we went a little bit too fast, so we have to take a stop and go here. But it's not that bad. We are led up, and you can day it as they drop the green, so we hope for the best here.
GT battle looks like it's going to get really intense for next year. There's talk of Schnitzer running a BMW team as well.
Well, we're happy. Our cars are better, but you've got to remember some of the fast cars have dropped out or had some bad luck, but that's racing. You have to have good luck and a good car.
Okay, they needed that caution there, a little tight on the fuel window. They pitted a little early, and they just took advantage of this caution. But meanwhile, he's got a problem. He's going to need to stop and go after the green.
Either Tom Milner didn't hear that question, or he was really dodging the whole point. One of the two.
In 1997, Tom Milner's cars finished first, second, and third in that GT class. The cleanup continues. Don't dare go away.
Speed Vision's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by Audi.
Welcome back, and there is Stefan Johansson. This is a Judd V10 engine in the back of a Rainer. They are currently running in 5th place overall, so this will equal their best result, which came back earlier in Portland. But you know what? This is one of the small private teams trying to take on these big boys, and Johansson Matthews' team really this season has been in an uphill battle. Johansson Matthews Racing opened the season at Daytona with high hopes, but soon found that the Rainier 2KQ Judd V10 was just not as competitive as they had hoped, and a season of frustration began. Since then, the car has evolved mechanically and in shape during the season in search of that elusive speed, with Portland showing off the efforts with a fine 5th place finish with the help of Guy Smith. But for Stefan, the season has been disappointing.
Yeah, we obviously, we started out with what turned out to be not a very good package, of course, so it's been a huge amount of work for us this year. But, in some ways that's what this business is all about. I mean, it'd be nice to start with with a somewhat closer package, I guess. But I think we've shown that the team's capable of getting the job done, and we're getting closer, but we're nowhere near where we want to be still. I mean, we still have a good second and a bit. We need to close to the front guys.
I'm pretty sure Stefan wanted to leave his frustration way back in his years gone by in racing and enjoy what's going on now. But this is big-time motor racing. Sports car racing has grown in leaps and bounds, certainly this year. Look at the line of cars here, 3 different classes. And right behind there's Wayne Taylor in the Cadillac. They only brought 1 car here, but there's major development plans for this car here. I know Nigel Stroud will design an interim Cadillac, Jeremy, but they are still deadly serious about being successful, not just in sports car racing, but they definitely want to stay on track and try to win Le Mans.
Well, and I think that Audi has really raised the bar a little bit. Certainly, with those 4-minute gearbox changes last year, or excuse me, this year at Le Mans, and I think it's sharpened the focus of the picture for Cadillac and for General Motors in terms of the level of commitment, the level of dollars they're going to have to put towards this program if ultimately they're going to succeed at Le Mans.
Max Angelelli behind the wheel. Calvin?
Well, just an update on the GTS battle. The number 3 Corvette really got hurt by that caution period. They were about 24 seconds behind the number 91 machine, but the leaders had just passed them. So consequently, the 91 car went to the back of the pack, almost a lap up. They're on the same lap, but about 7/8 of a lap difference right now.
Okay, so boys, here we go again. Audi, there's the Seline car in the middle of the mix.
That was very peculiar. I thought, well, this looks like we're green, but you wouldn't know it by the tire warming going on by the second place car.
No. Look at the boy just run away. Of course, that's the GTS battle. Right behind there, the 2 BMWs running 3rd and 4th. Leto Mueller, Gunnar and Bill Arberlin. 3rd and 4th. Smith and Johansson. 13 minutes to go. Audis have had 5 1-2 finishes. They've won the last 5 races in a row. Look at these boys. Is that for position?
No, the 43 car is a lap down to the team car, and I think what we've got happening here is the 42 car trying, and I don't think they're going to make it, try and get up there and run with the Audis, but right now they're a ways down.
We're going to try and keep a good close eye on the GTS battle. Now Beretta and Carl Wendlinger, with Beretta behind the wheel now, still lead that class. Second is the GTS, in the GTS category is the Chevrolet.
But I believe that is a battle for position in GTS.
We're going to keep a good close eye on it. Fellows and Pilgrim, Ron Fellows, I believe is behind the wheel of that car, doing a double stint.
Yeah, you see that number 92 car there. This 4 car is many laps down, but the 92 car wants to get on terms with the 3 car that is just a couple of seconds. There it is right there, and that will be for second in GTS.
Look how close he hit him. He did. He hit him. Boy, these boys are close. That was a little love tap. Didn't spin him around. He might return the compliment right here. Meanwhile, the Field Sutherland P-car just sneaks down the inside, splits the 2 of them temporarily. Was that an intentional love tap?
You can clearly see the damage on that car. That was from the opening lap of the race, when actually Justin Bell was in the Corvette, and the 92 car made contact with the Corvette.
Brake smoke there to Seline. Still in this test session, learning about that car. They've shown enough this weekend that I bet you every GTS team is concerned just how good that Seline will be.
Well, to show up here and in qualifying, be within a second of the pole time, and cars in the class that are very, very well-developed cars, these Vipers and, of course, the Corvettes. The writing, I think, for a lot of these teams is on the wall. This car is going to be a factor.
Now, essentially, remember, with the Seline, I mean, they still run the same air restrictors, the same weight, but the weight distribution of that car with the engine essentially in the back or in the middle should give that a fairly big advantage. Calvin?
Well, one thing to remember about the leaders, Derek, is the fact there's absolutely no love lost between Alan McNish and Pirro. Pirro actually stated about 2 races ago that he thought that he should be given the priority in going for the championship. Obviously, McNish was not going for that, and I understand from some of the team personnel there's not many words shared between those two, so if they get close together, it'll be interesting to see how things develop out there.
Well, 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 welcome to big-time professional motor racing. When egos get in the way and no friendships and everything gets just way too serious. We expect these boys to continue in tandem. I doubt very much if Pirro, well, you'd have to get close to him, but I doubt if he would stick his nose down the inside.
Well, he wouldn't be invited back next year if he was.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
That's right.
John Wire. Boy, Derek Bell, though, sports car racing, I mean, it really has changed. I mean, no longer do you have long-distance endurance races. Now you have long-distance sprint races.
Absolutely, and they're flat out the whole way. Must forget the 24-hour races and 12 hours of Sebring have been flat out, as you well know, Derek, for some time, but this is pretty hectic, close-fighting stuff.
Yeah, these cars now are so reliable that they can even go on these long distances like the Petit Le Mans, 10 hours, 12 hours of Sebring, 24 hours of Daytona or at Le Mans. You bring enough cars and drive them hard, certainly some of them are capable of going to the finish. We are back. We are under 10 minutes to go in Laguna Seca. Just glorious sunshine, big crowd here on hand. The crowds, in fact, have grown bigger and bigger with almost every race as the American Le Mans Series continues to just create this foundation of interest as the number 43 car, Leighton Mueller, is in. Calvin?
Well, actually, it's Oberlin who's driving this car, Derek, and there seems to be some sort of problem with the tyres because Bill Oberlin's come in. There's no fuel going in the car. They are changing tyres, so I'm not sure if he flat spotted them in traffic or when the handling has just gone so far away. Maybe they feel they can still hold on to this 4th place position and just doing a safety stop here with some new tyres.
Yeah, that was a surprise. It was, in fact, yeah, Oberlin. They are shown about a minute ahead of Stefan Johansson and Guy Smith. Johansson behind the wheel of that car. John Field and Sutherland car is now 6th, and Angelelli, Taylor 7th, Beretta, Mendinger, the first GTS cars in 8th. The GTS battle is not really that good at the head of the field, but there's a great fight still going on for 2nd place. Ron Fellows trying to hang on to 2nd, but David Donahue, who's in the 2nd of the Vipers, only 2.5 seconds behind him. The GT battle, the BMW with Boris Said and Pat Stuck has made their pit stop, or their stop and go penalty for the infringement. They are a lap clear of the Randy Post Bruno Lambert Porsche 911.
And that would certainly be a real accomplishment for the BMW team. You know, as we've already said, as we've already documented, they did have that one win taken away from them for technical infringement. And they've been working very, very hard with this new M3 all year to get it developed.
Remember, it's a 3.2 liter inline 6-cylinder engine in that BMW. That is the rear tire from Bill Oberlin's car, so he did feel something funny. Calvin, you down there?
Yes, I am, Derek. They just checked the pressure. It had gone flat, had very little pressure left in. Not sure exactly how much, but it looked like it was about 6 pounds on the gauge, and they're looking for some sort of cut or puncture or something. That's the Michelin engineers just inspecting the tire right now.
And of course, this series does promote a huge tire war, particularly in GTS with Goodyear tires on the Corvette, Michelin on the Vipers. We have Yokohama in the mix, Pirelli are in the mix. So this really is a great manufacturer's battle series also for these tire companies. That is the light car. That is, I believe, the number 56 car. The Gunnar Jeanette Martin Snow car. 2 of them in the light series started this race. We saw one of them fly off the road. That car right there. Boy, what a season McNish has had. What a season he has had.
And if you're Emanuele Pirro, you think, well, he's off to do his Formula One program next year. Why should he get the championship? You know, I've been here. I've been working hard. Pirro's been with Audi a number of years, mostly in touring cars.
I guess the way to look at it is Pirro could be champion next year while McNish is lingering somewhere in Japan testing cars.
You can make arguments anyway. Either way, certainly. I'm sure that's what's going through Pirro's mind.
Yeah, bottom line though, McNish has the speed. The demonstration he put on at Sears Point when he lapped the entire field, including his own teammate, that was the type of display that just distinguishes him and separates him from just about every other sports car driver right now. That's Hugh Chamberlain's Viper. The white and blue Viper, Hugh Chamberlain over from England, brought his complete rig, doing the last of these races of this season. Private entry, there it is right there. Just went out of your picture. Milka Duno and Stephen Watson from South Africa. Right there. Private run entry here, ran very well, ran within 0.8 of a second of the factory car, did the Chamberlain entry. So, you know Hugh Chamberlain, Derek, quite well. He's been around for years.
Yes, he's been round and round for years.
Yeah.
And he hasn't changed his shape at all, but he's a great enthusiast, but just, he's saying to me literally this morning that they just don't have the budget, you know, and they can't compete. But I thought they did a great job in the early part of the race.
Very, very good job. Now we're going to watch to see. It's a timed event. We may see the white flag here. We're almost down to the end of the time. We're watching the stand. There, he's on the radio. Didn't bring it out. So one more lap before we expect the white flag. Boy, I mean, the Audis are running 1-2 here. But this was not a cakewalk. This was not something that went according to the plan. This was a dogfight for about 2 hours to try and make their way past the traffic, all sorts of incidents, and they both survived it as they have all year long, bouncing off people, and still this car still runs.
Well, remember, on the run down to turn 1 on lap 1, these cars were 5th and 6th. The 43 BMW spun, and they ran a bulk of that first stint in 4th and 5th positions, with Magnussen leading and with Lato in 2nd at the BMW, and Johnny O'Connell doing a great job in the 2nd of the Panos cars.
But there's still a tremendous battle going on for GTS. You know, there are split seconds apart here between Ron Fellows' car number 3 and the Viper. Very, very close indeed.
That's right, David Donahue now behind the wheel of the Viper. We spoke to Tommy Archer earlier on. They've been between 2 and 3 seconds split apart as they go into what we believe now will be this white flag lap. And Pirro is now right behind Alan McNish. Do we see the white flag? Do we see the white flag? We didn't see any flag. No, not out yet. Yes, it is. Yes, we do have the white flag. White flag is out. One more lap to go. And if they can make it safely around here, Audi today will clinch the manufacturer's championship. 6th win in a row. Already had 5 1-2 finishes in a row. This will be their 5th. This will be their 5th. They've already had 5 consecutive wins. This makes it 6. What a demonstration here. But remember at the top of the show, we explained this car has so much more than just sheer speed. They have a team that has built a car that is so robust for these long distance races. When you do get in contact, this car just doesn't seem to break. Alan McNish, we saw, we were on board, and with the audio, you could hear him clout the concrete wall earlier, and he still was able to drive away. When the gearbox breaks, they take less than 4 minutes to change the whole back of the car. So now Pirro is right behind him as Alan McNish gets to celebrate. What an impressive display by this Audi team to come to the American Le Mans Series. Le Mans was their #1 priority, and then Len Hunt, VP of Audi North America, said we'd like these cars over here, and what a display they have put on. GTS winner now goes across to number 91, Wendlinger and Beretta. There is still a tussle going on for 2nd place in that. There is your GTS winner. swings back to the Vipers. There is your GT winner. GT winner. Hanstuck and Borisset combined to bring that thing. That now ends Porsche's 13 race in a row win streak. They tried to end it at Sears Point. They almost did. It was a titanic struggle all weekend long, or all day long, but finally BMW does come through. Little bit of help from their friends. Some of the quick guys did drop out, but Borisset behind the wheel. Boy, they've stretched this car so much. The engine has got more and more power, sometimes a tiny bit less reliable, but today, they will take the victory. BMW wins the GT class. And there is your overall winner, Alan McNish. What a season he has enjoyed. Just look at that freight train. We're going to get to talk to Alan McNish in just a moment, but another impressive run. We are back at Laguna Seca, and it is over, and what an impressive display it has been for Alan McNish and the Audi team. He's about to go into victory lane. Calvin?
Alan, great performance, your 5th win of the year, but it was pretty tight there. You got Emanuele under the stop there, and you got out quick, and he put some pressure on you today.
Yeah, he did. The biggest thing, though, is I'm extremely disappointed with Jean-Marc Guénon. What he did when I came up to lap him was just absolutely unacceptable. As a driver, I would be very, very embarrassed to do something like that myself, and I just don't accept it. That's at the point where I thought the race was gone, because we're able to fight, even though the problems we had early on, we were able to fight. That put us right back, and we had to concentrate and be careful just to try and pick things off when I could. But the team did a very, very good pit stop. I was able to get into the pit, a good in-lap into the pit, and I was able to get a good out-lap, and that was the important deciding factor.
Bit of Schumacher there. Any damage to the car, Alan? Was it as quick after the incident?
No, definitely not. The steering was a little bit right-hand down. It reacted very badly in certain conditions, especially going up the hill, and I think it's got a big old whack to the right rear somewhere along the line.
Thoughts on the championship at this point? It gives you a nice lead.
Yeah, we've got 2 more races though, and then we'll think about the championship.
All right, mate. Great job today.
Thank you very much.
Now, the incident he's talking about, we took a look at that earlier on, and it was, I think, pretty clear the way McNish called it, because, Jeremy, have a look here the way Guignon right there turns into him.
Well, he's trying to essentially force him off the racetrack, and really that could have taken both of those cars out of the race. And it was one of those situations that when we looked at it from McNish's onboard camera, Guignon had definitely missed a gear, or there was a little hiccup in acceleration down the hill. McNish was just trying to take advantage of it.
And when you're lapping, when the leader is lapping you, you do not do something like that. And we caught it on camera, and McNish said he should be embarrassed. For the 5th time this year, Alan McNish gets to stand on the #1 spot on the podium, and it gives us a chance to look at our unofficial results. And it was somewhat predictable at the end of the day, Jeremy, but I tell you what, it was a fight for Audi to get there.
And there's no question that this was a real opportunity for the Panos team to take a real, genuine win, because that win at Nürburgring, there was rain involved, a lot of strategy, but this was straight up a great race, and they could have dominated it.
Yes, it did, and you saw that the top GTS car there finished in 8th place, which was a good run for them. As you look down through the rest, 24th place was the Olive Garden Lola. They did a yeoman service job to get that crashed car back in the race and to run as well as it did before. They had some unfortunate engine problems. Look at the Panos car, number 31. That car led convincingly until they fell afoul of some engine troubles, etc. We'll be back.
Speed Vision's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by the new Motel 6, now renovated nationwide and still the best price of any national chain.
Welcome back to Laguna Seca in winner's circle with the GTS winner, Olivier Beretta and Carl Wendlinger. Carl, it was a great battle with the Vette. You actually had a bit of luck today with that loose wheel.
Yes, that's right. We had a little bit of luck with this loose wheel at the first pit stop. I don't know why it happened. I think the team also doesn't know yet. But Olivier did a very good first stint. He passed the two Corvettes right at the start and made a gap, and then I just tried to keep the gap the same distance. Then we were very lucky, like I said before, I jumped in the car. But I think at the end we gained nearly 1 lap by pace car again, so I think at the end it was a comfortable lead.
You would think that the development of this car would be exhausted, but you seem to be coming back stronger now at the end of the year.
I think all year long we see that, especially in the qualifying, the Corvettes, they are very fast, they put very fast lap times, but then especially in the race, I think over one stint, we are there and we can fight with them really. Today Olivier did, like I said, a very good first lap because he passed both of them, and then it was just a matter of controlling the distance. So I think, especially over one race stint, we are very good still.
Well, you hear the word from the GTS winner. Let's go over to Steve Evans, who has the GT winner today. Sorry, Steve.
Well, I have half of them, actually. Hans Stuck, I don't know where his dance partner is, but Boris gets lost a lot. We haven't had this conversation in a long time. Well deserved today, Hans.
Thank you very much, and thanks to my brother Boris, of course, and I want to dedicate this win to my mom. She had a heart attack on Monday. I wasn't sure if we're going to leave or not, so finally I made it. She's better, and I want to dedicate this win to her and wish her well at home.
We wish her well as well.
Thank you.
Very physical race today out there.
Oh yes, it was, because I had soft tires on, which wasn't meant to be, but I had to use them from the qualifying. I had to be very careful with the first 54 laps, but it worked out fine, and I kept the car on the road and made a good basement for Boris, and he did the rest, you know. Perfect.
Congratulations to Hans Stuck and Boris.
After all these years, Hans Stuck still is winning races, and he has been through the gambit, Jeremy, of Group C cars and P cars, and now back to basically modified road cars, but he is still a classic.
And of course, Formula One before that, so you're right, there is nothing that he has not done, and he's been successful at just about everything that he has done.
There are the Audi boys. Remember, some people speculate as much as $100 million invested in this sports car program. Certainly, they spent about $60 million developing the whole thing to try and win the Le Mans 24-hour race. And Jeremy, you mentioned it earlier, they have raised the bar for every other manufacturer.
And it makes it very difficult for people like Stefan Johansson and Jim Matthews, the private teams, the smaller teams, the Raffinelli team, to come in and beat these factory teams. And even BMW is struggling. Of course, they do have a car that is a year old, and they did choose not to develop that car. But yes, Audi has raised this whole thing to a different level.
As you look back on some of the incidents, remember the 7th win of the year for Viper, the number 91 car. Audi has now clinched the Manufacturers' Championship. The Drivers' Championship is still open. McNish leads, but has not clinched yet. So, for all your information on motorsport, remember to log on to speedvision.com. For Steve Evans, for Calvin Fish, for Jeremy Dale, I am Derek Daly saying bye-bye from Laguna Seca. We enjoyed a good one. It was spectacular.